Everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, Papa Pacelli. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you doing tonight?
I am doing pretty well. I can't say that I'm 100%, but I'm feeling well enough that I can stream off camera. I don't feel like being on camera.
If
I
you
don't want
need
to
to call the
subject
stream,
everybody to that.
if you need to call the stream short tonight, though, let me know. Okay? No, I'm
No,
serious.
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I do need to start getting in the swing. I got to get back to work tomorrow, so I really need to get going. But yeah, we've had a week, haven't we? There's been a lot going on in
There's a lot of
fandom and
stuff I would have.
entertainment and
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of stuff
forth.
I want to talk about, but there's not space for it.
There,
Um,
yeah, there
I know.
there was one thing that I did not add to the notes specifically. I did drop an article just so that I have attribution. I don't want people to think I'm just pulling stuff out of thin air. Looks like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez getting back together, just announced their engagement. I got to say, good for you guys.
Yep.
I'm happy for you, even though I got to say, as I always do, getting back together with your ex is kind of like putting spoiled milk back in the fridge and saying, yeah, maybe it'll be better tomorrow.
Maybe you
I'm
get a
just
nice,
saying.
a nice hunk of brie, huh?
Oh,
Not
Bree's
gonna
a whole
happen.
nother topic for this week.
Well, I
But
understand this,
I
yes, but
gotta
I mean,
say, when he's getting back together with his ex, I'm wondering if somewhere Will Smith is going, dude, no, you're out. Run. What are you doing?
listen. Anyway, tonight's good old days. Of course, we are going to talk about the wonderful relationship between Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez.
Do
About
you want to wax nostalgic about
remember
Geely?
Jersey Girl when she died at the beginning of Jersey
Jersey
Girl,
girl.
giving birth to his only child, and I was crying.
I got to
Probably
admit, I
my
never saw the movie. I have
one
no
of the
idea.
great Kevin Smith movies.
I had seen part of Geely, and I was like, no,
Geely, there you go.
no.
Um,
I And I think honestly, this is what's kind of sad about the whole situation because Ben Affleck, he takes a lot of flack for the whole Daredevil thing, but the reality is he has done a great gambit from comedy to satire to some really good drama. And honestly, as a director, he's done some great work. So he could have a much more laudable career right now if he hadn't made some really bad choices. And most of those bad choices involve Jennifer Lopez. Just got to say, you know,
yes.
you look at the movies he did with her and it's like, dude, just dude, that's all I can say.
Wasn't P
Um,
Diddy? Wasn't P Diddy involved with her at one point too? Wasn't that a thing?
I don't know. I mean, what is her career? She's a musician slash actress.
Singer. She's been in a lot of. She's going to be in a movie with
Honestly,
Owen Wilson, where she plays a pop star that
I
marries Owen Wilson on the
oh, she
spot and
plays a
stuff.
pop star. In other words, she's playing herself. That's what I'm talking about
No, she
when it
was.
comes to in quotes acting, right? I mean, when there are a few artists that can do many things really well, and the time of the Renaissance artist, right, where you expected your Hollywood entertainers to be able to dance and to sing and to act and do all of it really, really well, right? They pushed themselves, right? Nowadays, at least in the United States, and I think this is a big problem with the entertainment industry, there's this idea, oh, I can act. I did some plays in high school, right? And, as far as dancing, they'll teach me that if I need it. And singing, they'll dub that for me, right? It's like, no. And then I look at people from the other side of the pond. You look at people like Hugh Jackman, or what's that redheaded Australian girl, Eyes Wide Shut and so forth.
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
I'll never forget her name.
Absolutely. Very, also great dancer,
Yes.
singer. I mean, they, they, they stand on their own. They don't, you do not dub those people because they
Yes.
bring it. They
Yes, they
got
do.
it. And when it comes to acting, they could do action adventure, comedy, pure drama. I mean, Nicole Kidman. Have you seen The Others? If you have not seen
Yeah.
The Others,
It's a good ghost
okay.
movie.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Very creepy.
everybody likes to talk about The Sixth Sense. And don't get me wrong, that was a great movie, right? The Others is like the other side of that story. Brilliant, just brilliant. But yeah, that's and then I look at someone like and I'm sorry if you're a fan of what did she go by, J-Lo? If you're a fan of her, anybody that goes by a nickname like that, it's hard to take seriously. Okay, Jennifer Lopez. But come on. Anyway, I'm sorry. I kind of ran away with the opening of the show on this particular topic. I just realized we haven't even had a chance to say hi to our loyal listeners, all 6 people that are watching us right now.
Hey, welcome. Go Team Ghost Planet Go. Surprised to see you here. I always wondered, do the old man puppers represent you and Troy? Yes, they do.
Well, yeah, and I kind of wish we had the budget to do our own kind of thing. It is kind of, we're kind of stealing someone else's IP, but yeah, that was the intent of those.
I've noticed on Rumble it will remove some of the thumbnails on the main streams when I upload them, and I don't know if that's because of staff and reward. I would think not, because we have all sorts of other images in there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird what they do and don't. I mean, let's face it. I do kind of like a whole collage, so it could be any one.
Yeah, so
part
of
it.
mix.
Yeah.
Horizon Talker, hello the chat. Horizon Talker, I will at some point get to talking about the lovely Anita Sarkeesian. Lovely in quotes.
God.
But that won't be this week, but perhaps next week I will get to that. And Auditor Dread, welcome to the stream. And let's see who else.
Big Al, good to see you, man.
Big Al.
Thanks for stopping by. I don't know if you're still here because he said have a great stream.
Sorry, I missed the stream last night. That was the big one, the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
And Netters Network, hi Nanette, welcome as always. Okay.
Our trusty Blue Wrench.
David
Pensek, good to see you there, buddy. And Netter's waving. Zootopia. Oh, I think you already said that. And Auditor Dread. I may be repeating some of the same names as they're commenting, but I don't want anyone to feel slighted because we appreciate every single one of you. But yeah, I was kind of commenting how I felt like all of the notes from this week, kind of like last week, they center around the same basic topic. They're all variations on a theme. What's that? Jersey Girl wasn't half bad. I'll take your word for that.
That doesn't mean it was half good.
Well, if it wasn't half bad, that means it was half good. I mean, however you want to look at that. But,
you don't have to talk. No, I'm going to be bringing it up. I'm going to have a more positive spin on it. Gaming has survived her. It got damaged, but I'll say what's where we are now. And
do you feel like elements like Sarkeesian and stuff like that might be sort of a Darwin effect on fandom? If it survives, it comes out better for it.
I don't know about that. It will survive.
Might be going a little too far. Maybe I'm being a little bit.
Here's the thing. I'll get into it next time, but obviously the sexy female characters are sort of out. You still sort of get them from Asian release games, but even they've been toned down from what they were.
Did you see the dust up about was it Marvel Comics or somebody like re-editing a Conan character to remove the native headdress and put a cloth over her bosoms and stuff because too sexy and stuff, and it's like, don't even, if this stuff offends you, don't do Conan at all, okay? Because that's what it is. That is part and parcel of what this stuff is. Yeah, exactly. We kind of talked about this in our well, not this directly, but we were talking about heavy metal last week in our good old days segment. And let's face it, that was a big part of what heavy metal was. I don't think it still is. It was this very much for adult readers, sexy art, sometimes cartoonish sexy art, but still sexy art nonetheless, with adult themes, very much violent, sex, all of that stuff. And look, There is a place for that. And if you are one of these so-called progressive leftists who feel that, this is empowering for women, it's empowering for men and how you identify and so on and so forth, great. If you don't identify that way or that bothers you, to quote the great wise spokeswoman of our time, Brie Larson, it's not made for you. Stay the fuck away from it.
Yeah, exactly. Brie Larson. I liked her in Scott Pilgrim.
Are you going to like her in the Fast and Furious 10?
You're joking.
I am not joking. That came out just after I sent.
Looks like we have next week's stories
notes
already lined up.
Okay,
we'll
talk about that more next week. But yeah, she. Between her and John Cena, it's going to be.
Well, here's the thing. John Cena made a stupid mistake, and that's why I called him the loser of last year. But his performance in that movie was fine. If it hadn't been for that whole China dust stuff.
And apparently his Peacemaker thing is doing really well.
I've heard mixed things on, again, some of the content on that show.
I mean, I guess it's keeping his career alive anyway. I refuse to see anything he's in.
It's fine. Like I said, why didn't he? Like I said, that's what libraries are for. Fast 10 Alpha. I have to know what's going to happen with Dominic Toretto.
Okay.
That's the Vin Diesel character.
Yeah.
Anyway, you didn't ask me what I'm sipping on.
What are you sipping on?
Mucho Mango.
Mucho Mango. Sounds good.
It's a mango cocktail.
I'm drinking a Netter Special, Diet Dr. Pepper. And literally, in my house, it really is a Netter Special. I'm stealing her soda. When I run out of drinks, I'm stealing hers. And so that's why it's a Diet Dr. Pepper. Honestly, guys, most of you all, I would guess that there isn't anyone in the stream now that doesn't know. I was out for surgery on Tuesday. I didn't do a stream on Friday. I was just kind of in the chat yesterday on Big Al's rewatch of the 10 Commandments, which was awesome. It was nice to see that. Have not really been feeling myself. So that has meant zero alcohol. Maybe that's why I'm not feeling myself. Zero alcohol. But I'm hoping to be back up and running on full octane by Friday. My hope is to crack open the Cokie Americano for a martini on Friday. That's my plan.
Martinis are nice.
That
Mucho Mango is justice.
Okay, I'm good with that. Justice is a good thing. I think we very much lost sight of what that word means these days. But anyway, especially with all the talk of social justice.
We're going to have enough talk about that soon enough. Let's talk about the good old days.
Tell me about the good old days.
You do that so much better.
What are we going to?
I want to try it.
What are we thinking about the good old days?
Tell me about the good old days.
Hey, that wasn't bad. That was actually pretty good.
Yours is a little better, I think, though. Okay.
Well, it's my I don't know if it sounds like it to me. It sounds like I'm still really hoarse from having that tube down my throat.
So I'm going to talk about a good old days for me that Troy may not be as familiar with. Epcot Center.
Yep. Yeah, I only know the history, the intent of what it was meant to be, and I have an idea of what it actually turned out to be.
So this was Uncle
and
Walt.
What's interesting is that history is still rippling through the exhibits today. People will even still reference back to it as they're talking about what they are and are not doing, apparently, with, for example, the Star Wars exhibit there and whatnot.
There's a Star Wars exhibit at Epcot?
There was meant to be part of their what is the Star Wars thing they got now? The Galaxy's Edge.
But that's off Hollywood Studios.
It is. There was meant to be a portion of it that was going to be taking part of the Epcot area.
I understand.
This what do you call it? The hotel thing that they were doing. There was meant to be a connection between those two. Right now, that doesn't exist. You go to that hotel and spend thousands of dollars a night, and then you want to go to Baku for, Galaxy's Edge. You actually have to take a tram, which is very immersion breaking. They were meant to be butted up right next to each other, and they were supposed to be a synergy between. It's really a friggin' mess. It's well, there's other channels that have gotten far more into it than that, but yeah, as we get into more of the Disney talk today, we're going to be talking about some possible not litigation, but legislation that might be happening specifically regarding Disney,
Yeah.
and how that legislation has its roots and origins in Epcot, and
Yeah.
what Walt Disney had originally wanted for Epcot.
Now, the Epcot is an acronym for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow.
Right.
And this was Walt's attempt at making a permanent World's Fair. Now, I wish I was old enough to have gone to. Well, I'm not so old a boomer. I've never been to a World's Fair. Apparently, the World's Fair back in the old days, what was that, turn of the century? They were huge, big deal. And I would imagine they might be more akin to what we might think of a theme park today, perhaps. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Walt wanted to make a permanent World's Fair. And the idea is you have different countries, showcasing the best of their countries, right, in these pavilions. And then you also have new,
unless they're the bad guys this year and there happens to be a war on with them, and then you shun them and you have nothing to do with them.
It's interesting.
That's the way it works these days, right?
Yeah, it is the way it works these days. Yes, but
nothing's changed since the 30s, apparently.
Well, I would imagine probably. I'm sure Germany at some point had a pavilion, probably before World War One, and maybe that changed.
I'm sorry. That's just sour grapes on my part. A buddy of mine was just telling me that he went to his local grocery store that has the international section, and they literally removed all the Russian foods. And he's of Russian descent. And it's like, oh, don't you know you're evil? Because we're they're the bad guys now. This is no different than the Japanese during World War II.
It's
when we rounded them up and put them into relocation camps.
In the writing program I was in, there was a undergrad student who was apparently a whiz kid writer. And of course, I didn't care much for him because of his personal behavior. But from what I heard, he was a very good writer. I wouldn't want to see his career get stalled because he was Russian born and came to this country. I think that would be wrong.
Right.
But some things are going to be out of our control at some point. We'll see what happens in the future. But it's annoying. And we've been seeing this for many years now. But anyway, getting back to Epcot.
Mm-hmm.
You've never been to Epcot, have you?
I've never been there to actually see the exhibit. I have been to Disney World. I've seen Epcot. I've met people outside of Epcot, but no, I haven't actually gone. Well, wait, I take that back. Didn't Epcot house the what was that ride that was where you it was you get shrunk down and shot into the person?
Body Wars.
So maybe I did see Epcot, because that's the same ride that eventually got moved over to Star Tours. It basically became the bones of
it's one of these that style of ride. You sit down in the little theater and things bump around, so it's like an interactive theater experience. They've done one of the best versions of that was actually the Back to the Future ride they had out over at Universal. That was one of those as well.
Exactly,
which
I love
later
that.
Which later became the Simpsons ride. Now I will give Universal Studios points. It stinks when they get rid of an older ride like Back to the Future, but I get it. Things get out of fashion, but at least they replace it with something equally good.
Yeah.
They just don't, put something.
Well, it also sounds like they're good at reskinning, right? Yeah. And I think Disney needs to get a little bit more mobile about being able to rebrand and reskin.
Well, let's start the early days of Epcot. Now, when I had first gone to Disney, I think I was like 4 years old. I don't think Epcot was open yet. Or if it was, maybe it hadn't quite opened yet. I think we went to Magic Kingdom and that was it. When I was older, maybe around 7 or 8, we went back and Epcot was open. So we went to Epcot. And I think we actually spent more time in Epcot than the Magic Kingdom because they had done more of the Magic Kingdom on the last trip. So I spent more time in Epcot. It felt like I spent like 2 or 3 days there. I could be wrong. So I saw a good portion of it. and I was fascinated by Epcot. This Epcot typically is it's considered the joke of the main four theme parks, like the one you punish your kids and take them to, you know. I think, and I think it's
because
a
it
little
was
unfair.
it was like educational,
It's basically an educational park.
Yeah.
It is one part technology, one part international, seeing other countries around the world. Let's talk about all the future stuff. That was the stuff that really fascinated me. Was that you go and you see this huge dome, this huge silver dome, and it's
Yeah.
like something out of the future called Spaceship Earth. And I think
Right.
you go in there, and all these things were sponsored by different companies. Like AT&T sponsored one, I think Exxon sponsored another one, and they were all sponsored by these companies. Like they put money into these pavilions, and it was also to make their company look good. You know, we have a pavilion
Sure.
at Disney World, but also I think it was in the spirit of the World's Fair, and I think AT&T did Spaceship Earth. And you learned about communication through history and about how people communicated, how it changed over time, like how papyrus was discovered. And you see all these audio animatronic figures of, like Aristotle or something in the background. And then it moves into like the Library of Alexandria getting burned down and everything. And it's neat little ride, educational. My favorite of these future pavilions, my favorite of the pavilions was one called Horizons, because Horizons was explaining to you how life might be lived in the far future. And I always thought
that was a big focus for Disney in this idea. He was very forward thinking, and
Yeah.
I mean that's basically what it was. He imagined, what would, and I guess nowadays we look back on it with a little tongue in cheek and go, yeah, this is very what's that game? That video game that's like 50s retro
BioShock?
futurism. Is that the one where there's a
I don't
nuclear
know.
war?
Fallout. You're thinking Fallout.
Fallout, yeah, kind of like
yeah.
Fallout, like the Fallout future, like except without actually having a nuclear war. More positive version.
Yeah. But to be fair, when I went to this one, this was more up to date because it was from the 80s. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was when you go to the Carousel of Progress, that was Disney's big one, and of course he put that in Tomorrowland, which is in the Magic Kingdom. And you can see it's a great big beautiful tomorrow, that song. But Epcot, it seemed more modern, at least when I went there. Of course, anything modern becomes retro at some point, right?
True.
But Horizons was, because at least when I saw it, it was fairly up to date, and they were showing you how would people live in space. How would people live under the sea? How would people live in a desert, like an unarable desert? I know there are people in the world that can live in desert, but I mean, like the deserts people can't survive, and they were thinking, how can we fix these and make them better? And it was, and at the end of the ride, you got to pick your possible future by pressing a button on the touchpad. They had touchpads on these rides, and I think I picked desert for one and space for another, and then you go through this little film thing where you get to see what it's like going, hovering above this futuristic cityscape or whatever. And it was really neat. And there was the land pavilion, which was about I don't want to even say environmental. Of course, there was probably some of that there, environmental stuff, maybe conservation stuff, like how we, farming and stuff like that. And they had a really neat food court there. You could go to all these different areas. And lots of Journey into Imagination, which was a wonderful ride, which is all about they even had an original character named Figment, which was like this weird dragon type character, but the whole idea is he's a figment of imagination. Do you understand?
Sure.
He gave you the tour on the ride, and you would go into a person's imagination, and then you'd also go into like the nightmare area too. Like,
isn't that the inspiration for the DNA character from Jurassic Park?
Possibly. It's possibly that could have been a character from some other Disney thing too.
Oh, okay.
But of course, Figment is very much in the line with the Universe of Energy, which was Universe of Energy is funny because it was about where does oil come from?
Sure.
Well, some say some oil is actually old dinosaur bones, or and you get to go back into the Cretaceous period and see all the dinosaurs. It's an excuse to see dinosaurs, but it also explains how we get our energy, and also new forms of energy, like they were also promoting solar.
That's a great blending of entertainment and science, because they do kind of stretch the science for the purpose of injecting entertainment. They want people to get excited about the dinosaurs, so they mention dinosaurs, when in reality most people will tell you, no, not really so much dinosaurs, more algae, and forest
Stop it.
lands, you know.
Stop it. And of course, later on, they would change these rides. They put Ellen DeGeneres as the host of Universe Energy, which I roll my eyes at. They put Eric
Jeez.
Idle. I like Eric Idle, but don't put him in Journey into Imagination. Put the Dream Master. But that's the thing. They would try. This is your idea of reskinning. And
Yeah.
how the reskinning doesn't really work. They don't put as much effort. And I understand them wanting to update some of these items because I understand that Horizons, while exciting in 1982, may not be so exciting in 2002 when you go
Right.
back on the ride. And especially since as the rides get older, the sound is not quite as good. They stall a little bit more. They're not quite as fresh as they used to be. But I know that they've talked about there's also the Living Seas. That was another park where you would go underwater.
What I find interesting about this is the kind of stuff that people will point to and say, Disney has always been progressive. Yes. True progressivism. Yes, Disney has been. I would agree with that. And nobody has a problem with looking forward to a better future, right? Whether it's environmental or, conservative, conserving resources, renewable resources, explore space, terraform the desert, whatever.
Yeah.
Or even, the whole, it's a small world. I know that I'm getting a little off topic with that, but that very socially minded, it's a small world after all. We're, a melting pot and, all these cultures are wonderful and whatnot. That kind of stuff is very progressive. This social justice that we're seeing today at Disney is very regressive. It is not this kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of it.
We'll get to that soon enough. I did want to bring up, though, the other half of Epcot, which was the World Showcase, which is usually when people start to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the deal. Let's talk about the different showcases. First on the list is Mexico. The Mexico World Showcase Pavilion is actually very good. It is you walk inside what looks like this Aztec temple, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go out, you go in there, and then you're like in a city in Mexico, and there's like little stands you can buy items at, little shops on the side. You can go eat at a restaurant, all in front of like this. I want to say it's a volcano. And like an Aztec temple is near it, and it's really neat looking when you go into Mexico. And there's a ride you can go on too, which is they kind of have Donald Duck and the three caballeros, those cartoon characters. They have them
those racist, problematic characters that they can't use anymore.
I am going to say this: those were actually Disney's Walt's attempt. He wanted to make inroads into South America, so he wanted to create some characters that were indicative of those cultures.
Which is interesting because if you really ask people from South America, Mesoamerica, they will say, "Yeah, this was great. We have great fond memories of that stuff." The same people that get upset about Speedy Gonzalez, and you have people in the Mexican community going, "Back off of Speedy. He's our guy."
It's still happening. When Nintendo released Super Mario Odyssey a couple years back, the original cover had Mario wearing a sombrero. Because you can get different costumes in the game, and one of them you visit this one world that's like a Mexican city, and he can get a sombrero, and then of course the nuts on the other side were screaming about him wearing the sombrero. Yet I think they interviewed plenty of people like Mexican Americans, people Mexicans that thought it was cool that Mario was wearing a sombrero, but
yeah. Well, I mean, and this is what's crazy because by the same token, you could do like. I don't know, a tarantella, right? And you could have Italian folk dancers in, those kinds of red, white, and green costumes. Is that racist? No, it's folk culture. It's a little outdated, but it is part of the culture. And there's nothing wrong with it. People that get upset about this stuff they're actually the racists. Let's be honest about it.
So Mexico is neat. In fact, the ride reminds me a little bit. You can go through this little this Mexican village, which reminds me of like It's a Small World with all the kids going la 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 la. Like it's
right. Mm-hmm.
Going on to China. China was the worst snooze fest. Probably wonder who put this on there back in the day. I don't know. It just no ride in China, nothing. I think it's improved a bit since then. I think they had now you can watch a movie where Jackie Chan hosts it. At least the last time I was there at Disney, but so that did improve a little bit. Germany, I forgot that Germany is there. I think there must be some kind of beer hall there. No ride. Italy. Again, Italy, Italian restaurant, but no ride. It's like I'm noticing a thing.
Well, I get the impression that whenever somebody wants to talk about Italian culture, all they want to talk about is food, and maybe occasionally opera.
There's a lot more to Italian culture than those.
Oh yeah, there's organized crime, right?
They're also great masters of cinema. They contributed a lot to world cinema, but anyway.
Yeah, spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, spaghetti everything. Anyway, you know what?
I'm playing around because obviously I have a great love for spaghetti westerns. Are they historically accurate to the American West? No. Are they great contributions to cinema by Italy? Maybe not. But they're fun. For crying out loud. What's wrong with fun?
Fun is nice. The American Adventure has a very good audio animatronic play you can go see where it tells the history of America, and it's kind of neat. You get to see all different people from different points of American history, and it goes through the Civil War, through the American Revolution, Civil War, World War I and II, and it goes up to, I guess, how
does
where
it talk about how
racist
this country has been in its history and how
nothing at the point that I thought was unfair. We of course have to tell the truth about things, but it was. I think the point is that we've come along. We had a hard journey and we made mistakes. We come a long way. I don't think it wasn't preachy, if that's what you're thinking.
Oh, we can't let go of the past. We were evil and we got to be punished for it.
Anyway, it was saying all the great things we did, like especially all the inventions.
Oh, she's beating me.
Japan. There's a Japan pavilion, which again, I wish there was a ride in Japan. They could have done a Studio Ghibli thing in there. Of course, now Disney doesn't release those anymore, so maybe not. Right. France, again, not. Norway is not on this little map I have here from the 80s, but Norway was released later. Norway was probably the coolest pavilion because it had a ride where you got to see trolls, and then you saw a movie at the end of the ride all about modern Norway, about how it was the Vikings, and then it's
nice. Get Andre from Midnight's Edge to do
he's not going to like what they did to it. They turned it into a Frozen ride now.
Oh God.
I don't know if maybe Norway is still sponsoring, if they got annoyed by that, because Frozen doesn't really take place in Norway. I guess it takes place in a Norwegian style country, but it's a fake country in the movie. It's not. Never mind. United Kingdom. Again, I don't know what the UK and Canada. Last time I was there, Canada had a thing with Martin Short in it, and which was better than what they had before. My parents reminded me that I kept complaining while we had to stand and watch.
What was it, all
Canadian
Dudley
movie.
Do-Rights or something?
No, it was just like a thing in Canada, and you had to stand and watch it. There weren't seats in the pavilion for you to sit down and watch the movie. It's like, are you kidding me? And I didn't like it. I didn't like the one in China either. I think they've gotten better.
Oh, Canada, nowhere to sit.
So this good old days at Epcot, it's there.
Have you seen it recently? Because I know you live very close to.
Last time I saw
Disneyland.
Epcot was maybe 5 years ago, maybe.
Okay, so that's fairly recent.
That's when I saw the additions of like Jackie Chan and Martin Short in these films, because like they had to liven these things up because they were
interesting.
But I'm trying to think.
How many days do you feel you'd have to dedicate to Epcot? 1 day. Okay.
Maybe half a day.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one. I'll be generous to say one. They did a very neat thing around Christmas time where you could go see a special reading of the Christ being born story from the Bible. They would have a special.
Oh, they can't do that anymore, I'm sure.
I don't know if they do that or not, but they would have a special guest celebrity reader. And the gentleman who played the butler on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was the one that did the reading the night I was there. I heard him do the
gotcha.
Do the reading, and it was neat. It was a nice little. it's good they did that around Christmas time. It's a pity we had like missed it like a few days earlier. It'd been Jim Caviezel doing it, but again, I don't know what they're doing now. And that's the good old days of Epcot. Have I sold you on Epcot? Probably not.
Auditor Dread says they have Romanians playing as Mexicans. Eli Wallach, who's Jewish, plays the infamous and great character of Tuco. Okay. Yeah, that sounds about how these things kind of tend to go, I guess.
One thing's not that I want to get off. Maybe I'll do spaghetti westerns next time or something. We have to get back to our children's movies that terrified us at some point too. But one thing I will say about the Italian westerns, spaghetti westerns that I like, there are some of them where the Mexicans are the bad guys and like coming into like American territory and taking over a town, and
sure.
Like, there's a sign outside the saloon says "No dogs or gringos." And this is when the main character Ringo has just come back from fighting in the Civil War on the Union side, and he's come back to his town that's been taken over by these bad Mexicans. But then you'll have other movies in this genre where there's an evil like ex-Confederate guy that decides, hey, and he has his own gang, and he say, hey, let's play a game of shoot the poor Mexican farmer in the back as they run away from us. So they go both ways, and I think the point the Italians make is that people are bad on all sides.
Well,
good on all
that
sides,
kind of was always the point of the West. The Westerns were, the West was wild, right? I mean, it was seen as being very lawless. And this is why people tend to, when they talk about the Wild West, they say, well, the West was wild and it was pretty lawless, but it was polite because everyone carried a sidearm.
You have that. We got to talk about the news, don't we?
Probably should. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Epcot. The problem with trying to make a World's Fair that's a permanent exhibit is that the exhibits get old and people don't want to update them. And
as I was alluding, as we were talking about it, it was Walt being progressive in what most, I think, of us would consider to be a good progressive way. Disney has decided they want to go the bad progressive way.
Yeah, they've not
specifically with wokeitude.
They've not had a good couple weeks, and
it's their own. And
there's a note here. I love this note you have here. Don't forget that Rupert Murdoch is the largest single shareholder of Disney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this comes from
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, this is the theory that. And I've put this out. Cameron Pasha has said this. Stephanie Janicek has definitely said it. Originally, Disney, and we actually reported on this. Originally, Disney didn't want to take any stance on the parental notification bill in Florida. They were like, yes, this is politics. This has nothing to do with us. Then a very boisterous minority within their ranks decided to that's not good enough, and staged a walkout of like one person in Florida and like a half a dozen on their lunch hour in California to protest it. But they did a lot of damage on social media, and then unfortunately, we talked about this last week. With a gun to his head, Bob Chapek had to read a prepared statement about how sorry they were and how they support their alphabet community within the company, and we're going to do better. And we're starting committees, and we're going to show more representation. And then, of course, we had this video come out that was leaked about.
Talked about that last week, yes.
The not so secret gay agenda, and they're not even being subtle about it anymore. They're clearly pushing for gay agenda driven stuff in Disney products, and people, including people in the gay community, are starting to go, shut up. You don't speak for us. You don't speak for us as parents. You don't speak for us in the gay community. You're a bunch of psychos. Shut up.
Can I read you a quote from Reggie Fils-Aimé of Nintendo?
Go ahead.
I pulled it up here.
I'm assuming it's related.
I think it's related. This is what he said when people asked him about Nintendo and politics, and he says this: making political statements are for other people to do. We want people to smile and have fun when they play our games. Wouldn't it be nice if this comment came from Chapek and it was, we want people to smile and have fun when they
I
go to our parks and watch our
Yeah,
movies?
I
And
do feel like that was his initial intent,
I
and
think so too.
unfortunately,
I think so
someone
too.
above him decided, no, we need to address this. Now, it does seem like, if this Rupert Murdoch is, comment is anything to go by, it could very well be, yeah, you do this, you put this comment out, you take the hit, but that gives us the cover to say, you know what? We were right in the first place. Screw all of you. We're getting out of the politics game. You don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, I hate to. I mean, I have family members that are even way more conservative than I, especially relatives and whatnot, and they would go to Disney all the time. They were more Disney files than I ever was. I can't imagine that they are too happy about this right now. What's been going on here? I'm going to go ahead and read though from this wonderful. I want to say this is a editorial column, right, from the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, it is.
Let me make sure I get his name right too before I read.
Now, keep in mind, whenever we share something that's an editorial, it's still, you have to, yes, it's just an opinion, but it's an opinion by the Wall Street Journal. That says something. The Wall Street Journal is talking to finance. They are not talking to agenda driven people. They are not talking, to, anything that the trades would be talking to. They are talking to the Wall Street crowd, the investors, the money people.
Yeah. So this is Gerard Baker of the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to go ahead and read a bit from this column he has here. If executives of the Walt Disney Company are serious about tackling the endemic poison of cisgendered white patriarchal ideology in our wicked society, it's high time they revisited their enormous back catalog of works that have promoted this pernicious propaganda for too long. It is not enough to start making movies that reflect and celebrate our modern sexual mores, as we have learned lately is their intent. They need to make urgent reparations for the pollution they have poured into the impressionable minds of young children over the first disgraceful century of the company's existence. I would recommend establishing a large team of young managers, recent graduates in critical gender theory from our most selective universities, all thoroughly trained in enforcement techniques used in corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and dedicated to eliminating every noxious hint of gender rigidity from the company's output. The work will be arduous because the damage is vast, from Lady and the Tramp and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to The Lion King. The very titles of these repugnant efforts at juvenile indoctrination are throwbacks to an age of prejudice, stereotyping, and the study of human biology. He goes on to say, perhaps the smart people in the company's technology department might come up with some kind of digital book burning exercise to expunge from the national consciousness every last one of those offensively binary 101 Dalmatians. Only then can they go on to remaking the classics Peter Pan Sexual, the story of a child who never grew up but still entered into fulfilling open relationships with pirates, fairies, and yes, the quote-unquote lost boys. Dumbo, preferred pronoun she, the inspiring tale of how the brave little elephant who, after transitioning, became the most successful circus act of all time, easily surpassing in aerial agility all the cisgendered females. For admission to Disney World, every 5-year-old should be required to sit through a day-long induction program on the full rainbow of sexual and gender possibilities. Then duly re-educated and LGBTQIA A's plus accredited interrogative to protect the public against any lingering vestige of prejudice, and carefully inspected for the removal of offensive aisles such as quote-unquote princess costumes. They will be permitted to proceed through the turnstiles into an ideologically compliant theme park that will really be the happiest place on earth. What do you think so far, Troy?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I was just thinking about this nurse who said that she's being investigated by the British Columbia College of Nurses because she believes in biological sex. And this is the kind of thing where anyone with any intelligence starts to go, what the hell is happening here?
That's biology.
We talk about believe the science, right? Science is absolute. I'm sorry. If you feel differently, if you identify differently, that's not science. That is at best philosophy. Okay. And the two don't go hand in hand. Okay. You know, I believe in a God, okay? And maybe someone else believes in, you know, pure random chance and that's why existence and there is no God, whatever. Either way, you can't prove those scientifically. They are philosophies, okay?
Right.
But you can definitely prove things about the way the universe works and, you know, I don't know, quantum theory and how atoms work and chemistry and the fact is biology is a real thing. When you go to your doctor, you don't want your doctor treating you, you know, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're a man or a woman? Okay, I feel like a woman. Okay, so I won't bother checking your prostate.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be an issue.
You know, and this is the ridiculousness that we're talking about. Okay, this idea that people's beliefs and philosophies, which are based on nothing, they're what we used to call mental masturbation. They have nothing to do with anything real. It's the kind of thing that only it's a first world problem. You are so removed from having to worry about where your food comes from and how to get medical care and you know how to get money to clothe yourself, you know, and find shelter from the rain, okay, that you have time to think about, well, is gender really just
that's
a
okay because
construct of society, or you know,
we may be heading back to those days.
yeah.
Where we have to. Well, I'm kidding. Of course, I'm kidding.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think a lot of people that are in this situation are taking us out of being a first world country anymore, and we will no longer have first world problems because we will start dealing with third world problems again. Thank you very much, you regressive so-called progressives.
Anyway, let me go on to read the rest of the column. It's easy to mock, but when a company whose products have entertained, enlivened, and enriched the lives of billions of children and their parents decides it must take a stand against the Parental Rights and Education Bill, what does it expect by joining in the campaign to distort the objective of Florida's new law, defame the people behind it, and deprive parents of the right to determine whether their children as young as 5 should be taught about sexual orientation or gender identity in the classroom? Disney executives invite something much worse than ridicule. They risk placing themselves on the side of a small minority of unrepresented ideologues who are trying to remake the relationship between children, their parents, and their teachers. The larger problem Disney's dutiful obeisance to the noisy extremists represents is the way in which those who seek to control our culture are redefining a central element of democratic pluralism, what it means to be an open and tolerant society. I am sure there is no shortage of bigots in this country and elsewhere with malevolent views about minorities, people who would deny basic human rights to people of certain sexual orientation or those genuinely ambivalent about their gender identity. But most Americans aren't like that. They are sympathetic to the particular challenges that these people face, and they want them to be respected and loved and given opportunities available to everyone. Use be considered and the normal use of language tolerated, but the rules have changed. It's not enough to be tolerant. If you're a citizen or a corporation, you need to be a participant in a campaign to reorient our culture, to expand the horizons of sexual awareness to every 5-year-old in the country, and subscribe to the mandatory proposition that there is no such thing as biological sex. That runs what you're saying about the nurse a minute ago.
Yep.
It's the same with race. Even a decade ago, we all knew what bigotry looked like. A white supremacist was someone who believed that race was the defining characteristic of humans and the detriment of their ability. and that white people were inherently superior. I always found it self-refuting that the white people who articulated this view always seemed to be among the lowest forms of intelligent life on the planet. Yes, that's a good observation he has there. But bigotry has been redefined as quote unquote white supremacy is imputed to all white people, and only those who own up to it can begin the long journey toward eradicating it. In this now dominant view, race is now indeed the defining characteristic of humans, the detriment of every individual's moral condition. So instead of striving to be a tolerant society, we're now directed to become the very opposite, this intolerant place where any risk of genuine intellectual diversity, independent thought, or the rights of parents to instruct their children evidently needs coercive policing by institutions wearing Mickey Mouse ears. I want to make a point about something. For a while, I was hoping that there would be a challenge. I mean, from people on, I guess, what we might call the conservative side to actually start noticing this stuff and speaking out against it. Looks like it's happening. This is not some fringe website that's posting this. This is the Wall Street Journal. So
right.
So this,
and
I think
this
people
is,
are finally starting to wake up a little bit. So
this was my point at the beginning when it's the Wall Street Journal saying this and expressing this opinion. It's sending a message. We see a lot of stuff on social media from a very boisterous, tiny little minority that seems like it's everybody in the world. If your whole world is social justice, well, socialist media. But this is basically saying, no. Most people think this way, especially people that have the money to invest in companies like Disney. This is the reality of the world. And these people have completely lost any concept of reality. You know, and going back to what I was saying again, I think the very underrepresented true bulk of the alphabet community. No, I'm not going to say that. The true gay community, okay? The ones that don't get bent out of shape if you say gay, lesbian, bisexual, okay? They're okay with the term gay, okay? Because it encompasses all of that, right? They have spent decades trying to get recognized as having a right to do what they want in the privacy of their own homes.
Be left alone, basically.
Exactly.
Which I can sympathize with. That's fine.
Exactly. But another thing that if you know anyone, especially an older gay person, they'll tell you this, that they've struggled with is, you know, just like every other minority group has their stereotypes that are just offensive and wrong. There's this stereotype that they've been trying to overcome for so long that because they're gay, that means that they are, how do I put this? Predatory of our pudding people.
Yes.
So as not to get you, you know.
No, I understand.
Hit by YouTube. And that's not what it means to be gay. But for a long time, so many people assumed you're just a pervert. And so therefore, you know, I got to keep my kids away from you. And that's not what it's all about. But then something like this happens where you literally have people that are, well, let's face it, we'll call it what it is. They want to groom kids. And the gay community, the real gay community, comes out and goes, what the hell are you doing? We have been fighting against this stereotype for so long, and here you are reinforcing it. You are sick people that do not represent us.
It feels like things are being dialed back by the people who you thought were the ones who were supposed to be on the side protecting this stuff. And I just don't know.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does. And that's what really bothers me, because again, these so-called progressives claim to speak for a segment of our community, and they don't. They are literally operating against them. The modern feminists are destroying feminism. Okay. The modern gay community is destroying all ground that the gay community has made up to this point.
Yeah. Well, it's also this whole corporate aspect of all this too, which I've noticed, especially when the social media companies, it's like they set what the standard is, and anybody that goes against them gets, silenced. That's what I've been noticing. Because they're even
Well, and
going.
I will argue, though, that's what they try to do. The only reason they succeed is because the majority of people allow it. It's this whole concept of, well, I guess we got to go along with it, or they'll try to silence me too, not realizing that, the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing. Eventually, they will come for you. Eventually, it's not enough that you acquiesce. You have to actually support them. And if you don't feel right supporting them, they will cancel you too.
Yeah, it's interesting because Chris Hedges, he's a well-known pundit on the left, but he was defending. He came out against even when Mr. Alex Jones was, and he didn't like Alex Jones at all. But he didn't. He thought people celebrating his cancellation don't do that because they may come and cancel you one day. And of course, his videos have recently been taken off of YouTube now too because they were on a certain used to do commentary on a certain channel that gave news out for a certain country. So his stuff is all gone off YouTube now. So he was making a point that
because apparently that's how progressive we are. We silence opinions we don't agree with instead of actually listening and seeing for ourselves. Is there truth in that? And if there's not, why isn't there?
Mm-hmm. So moving on, Disney execs should listen to Milton Friedman and stop stealing from shareholders. This is a good argument. I like this article. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I pulled out a bunch of it. All right.
Real quick, though, I want to say thanks to David Pensack and Stephen Otten, both giving me send-ups. Well, it sounds like Troy is back up to pace. He's ready for duty.
I need to agitate him, so he'll have to. Anyway, nobody seems happy with the Walt Disney Company and CEO Bob Chapek these days, especially those in politics. Indeed, Chapek and his management team have managed to anger those on both sides, the left and the right. That's actually quite a political feat, but one with which the company shareholders, full disclosure, I am a shareholder, might not be too pleased. Is there a lesson here for Disney and other companies? Yes. It's really quite simple. Company executives shouldn't play politics with the shareholders' company. Sum up the current Disney situation, Florida's legislature put forth a bill that was opposed by a group of activists on the left. The legislation, the Parental Rights and Education Act, or labeled by activists in opposition, the quote-unquote Don't Say Gay bill, was both poorly written by the legislative authors as well as misrepresented by opponents. Nevertheless, these activists, including some Disney employees, pressured the company into opposing the measure, with company executives pledging to work to have it repealed now that it has been signed into law. Subsequently, activists on the right have attacked Disney, and perhaps most interesting, Florida lawmakers are now talking about repealing an assortment of benefits that the Disney company enjoys in the state of Florida. And we were mentioning that last week about the ability to self-govern the parks, right? That was So Disney has managed to get itself in a political mess largely of its own making over an issue that has nothing to do with its business. All this gets back to a fundamental point. Company executives who use company resources, that is, shareholder resources, to engage in politics, including so-called corporate social responsibility adventures, are, in effect, guilty of stealing from the company's owners. This idea that the companies have a quote-unquote social responsibility beyond trying to make a profit has been around for some time now, and brings us to Milton Friedman and a now classic essay he wrote for the New York Times Magazine in September of 1970. That's right, these kind of issues have been banging around the public square for more than half a century. While referencing certain issues of this type, Friedman hit on important points regarding the purpose of a business and how that does and doesn't relate to politics and social responsibility. The title makes clear where Friedman is coming from. The social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. None of this means that Milton Friedman opposed political activism. To the contrary, he argued strongly for great freedom across society, but he did so with disciplined thinking. It's not the responsibility of corporate executives to use the resources of others, that is, the shareholders, to do the bidding of political activists or to pursue whatever political issues those executives might favor. Each individual, from the CEO to the newest employee, engages in all kinds of political, societal, religious, and cultural activities with their own resources. and such freedom should be celebrated. So obviously, if a Disney CEO was doing this on his own dime, and that's a different story, correct? Is that what
Correct.
I'm impression I'm getting from this? While Friedman didn't say this explicitly in his essay, the inference stands, and I will reiterate: CEOs using shareholder resources for endeavors that have nothing to do with the company's business is not about freedom; rather, it's theft. And efforts to turn private businesses into vehicles for political causes is a dangerous game that elevates politics and undermines free enterprise. And therefore, given that free enterprise or capitalism has proven to be the greatest wealth generator and poverty fighter in the history of mankind, does real harm for the well being of every individual in the nation. It's nice to read news articles that are well written.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wanting to say here.
I'm just
Rather than
glad to
some of the
see. I'm just glad to see news articles that are actually edited, that have proper grammar, spelling, punctuation. That seems to be too much to ask these days.
All right. Good night, Horizon Talker. You have a good night's sleep. And hello, Joshua V. If I haven't said hi to you, welcome. Okay, and Deleted Scenes, welcome as well. So, what do you think, though? Good point. It's not really their prerogative to be doing this stuff on the
Yeah,
shareholders'
it's
dime.
absolutely not, and it's this entitlement, right? That this idea, and it stems from, honestly, I'm going to blame it on social media, but I think social media isn't really the cause; it is the catalyst. There is this idea that everyone needs to focus on me. I'm so important. Uh, the world owes me everything. The way I feel creates reality, and you must acquiesce to that. And this company, they don't deserve the money that they have. They don't deserve, the privileges that this company. I get to dictate what this company does because I'm freaking nobody who can barely show up to work.
I think that's the crux of it. Remember how we've often talked about in the past about how I keep wondering if the wokeness is being used as a shield for the incompetence of some of these entertainment products we've been getting over the last few years. I'm starting to think that they're just, especially in the wake of what we've seen recently, that perhaps Iger was hiring based on ideology, and
It's very
I
clear that he
don't
wasn't
looking for talent. He was looking
operating
for ideology first.
he wasn't operating in good faith for what his position required of him. He had a personal agenda, a political agenda,
Yeah, because he wants to
and
run for office.
He used the Disney Corporation specifically for that. It blew up for Disney, and it is the gift that keeps on giving. There are landmines all over this company that are just blowing up and blowing up now for the new regime.
We're going to see more of them.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect this is the tip of the iceberg. I do give points though. At least the media, at least portions of it are finally recognizing this stuff finally. Because I don't know, for years we were trying to scream about these ideologues and nobody listened, but it looks like it's finally coming out. But let's see. Get back to business. Sorry. Did you say something?
I was going to say that I think that we've talked on this channel a lot about how these kinds of initiatives have been pushed by a minority. We know full well that the majority, the ones that vote with their dollars, are the ones that will bring about change, and they are starting to push back.
They're
And I'm
not
telling
happy.
you, this year is midterms. You're going to see a huge red wave, and I think a lot of people are going to be really shocked to find out what the overwhelming opinions of people in this country are.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we have a few more months before that happens, and
No,
a lot of other
that's true.
nastiness can happen before that. But
That's true.
I keep thinking November's seems like years away now because this year's been going by slow.
Yeah.
At least for me, it has. A Disney shareholder is speaking out after the Walt Disney Company caved to woke demands and vocally opposed Florida parental rights and education law. What are the details? Speaking with Fox News, shareholder Rob Keating said Disney should return to creating excellent stories and stay away from politics. Here's a suggestion for Disney CEO Bob Chapek: get back to business, that is, excellence in storytelling, and stop wasting shareholders' money on political crusades that have nothing to do with Disney's business, Keating said. We all have the right to have our voices heard on issues, but not on the shareholders' dime. Boom. And I think this is the one that Keating's comments came after Kristen Hawkins, a mother and president of Students for Life of America, wrote a viral goodbye post to Disney condemning the company for having transformed into a political propaganda machine that grooms children for abortions and sexual promiscuity. Okay, well, thanks. Okay, that's quite a condemnation there. But
one comment I wanted to make about that too. You know that these are people that want to take control of your children and have say in what they learn and how they're groomed and how they are raised, and they don't have kids of their own. They have either taken themselves out of the gene pool because they have decided that they are going to physically change their bodies to destroy their ability to reproduce, or they have decided they don't want to get into the kind of relationships that would lead to procreation.
Right.
But they feel like they have the right to control what happens with your children.
It's interesting. Even Bill Maher, who of course is a guy on the left, obviously on HBO, but even he thought the whole thing, keeping the parents out of it, was a little. He did cringe a little at that. He was like, "What's going on there?" I don't think he quite realizes. Of course, to be fair, he even had an interview with Ben Shapiro, so I guess he can't be that. I don't know. At least he will at least talk to the other side. But what were you saying? I'm sorry. Oh
no, I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Protesters gather in front of Disney headquarters to protest. This has not been getting a lot of press on certain places, but
this is very much, this is kind of thing that you need to pay attention to sometimes through alternate, media outlets, just like the trucker thing in Canada and whatnot. Look, the vast majority of people are, and that's the other thing too. I guess unless you are burning places down and, and breaking windows and stuff to have a, in quotes, mostly peaceful protest. If you have an actual peaceful protest, it's somehow terrorism, but
Well, I have to say, I think there's going to come up about the Summer of Love soon enough, because I think we'll see what happens in some of these elections.
Well, there's more and more lawsuits that are happening. Again, something that isn't covered enough by the legacy media. But if you're paying attention to what's going on out there, the law is doing its job. At least the courts are. So,
protesters gather in front of Disney headquarters to protest grooming. Okay, so of course this is what
grooming and predation on our pudding people. Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, just for those that wonder, I follow a conservative commenter named Sydney Watson, and whenever she refers to children in situations like this, she always says "our pudding people." So that's something I've kind of adopted. Pudding people,
It's funny. I've heard lots of people use different words for things online. We say the beer bug when we mean something else.
Exactly.
So Wednesday evening, hundreds of protesters gathered outside Disney's headquarters on 500 South Buena Vista Street in Burbank, California, to protest the corporate giant. Protesters carried signs calling for allowing the kids to be kids and not sexualizing children, according to Travis Rice of Fox LA. A group called Hold the Line organized the protests and said that Disney is leaning too far left. The group is calling for a Disney boycott in order to keep the children innocent, and described the protest as a church in front of the Walt Disney Studios. The organization began advertising the protest on April 4th. According to journalist Drew Hernandez, a conservative Disney employee said on stage at the protest, "It's gotten very hard to be someone with conservative values." I don't know who that employee was. It's very difficult when you're working in one of these organizations to speak out like he or she did. So I have to give that employee points, because that can't be an easy position to be in. Families across the U.S. have been canceling their vacation plans to the theme parks and their subscription to Disney Plus after Disney CEO Bob Chapek has opposed the Florida's parental rights and education bill, and after it was revealed that Disney recently hosted an all-hands meeting about the bill in which executives bragged about their quote unquote, not all secret gay agenda, and quote unquote adding queerness to children's programming. I'm still trying to figure out if that who leaked that video, that Zoom call, which side did it.
That's very telling, isn't it? It's
It,
not a very clever tactical move if that's your agenda that you're trying to get out.
But it could have been them from that side in an effort.
That's a whole level of stupid that I find hard to believe, but you could be right about. Honestly, though, it makes more sense that it's probably people from a more conservative standpoint saying, we need people to know about this.
Yeah, possibly. Could be. I could see either one.
And honestly, it's got to be pretty high level because, it takes high level to even have access to some of that or be able to put it out. And I've actually heard people theorize it may have been Chapek himself saying, I need cover here. I need people to know about this or I can't fight against it.
I wonder. I don't know, because he had that cringy apology video this week, which I think there's something going on, like there's a gun pointed to his head while he's saying the apology, right? And it's I don't know, because like I said, he's gotten in trouble for both sides, because the one side, the left side, doesn't think he's doing enough, and the other side, it doesn't like the fact, think he's acquiescing. So he's in a bad position, and I don't know where he is. That's part of my problem.
Well, this is something that I've said too. Even if the theory that he's looking for cover and, he's, trying to fight against this, Disney as a corporation needs to fucking move on it already, because this is a nightmare for PR. This is killing their company. They need to move decisively and quit with the screwing around games already.
Now, I am going to say this. There was talking here about boycotting. Boycotting, I always find a little odd, because it always strikes me that the whole point of boycotting is there's something that a company gives you that you want. Perhaps you were I don't know, like you're a big fan of Oreo cookies, but they do something, and then you decide, oh, I'm not, like the left is always wanting to boycott Chick-fil-A. They're always talking about doing that, but Chick-fil-A is still standing, because I think if someone is giving you something that you want, instead of maybe,
here's what it comes down to.
I think the frame should be, they're not providing you what you want, and that's why you don't want to spend money there, rather than it being a moral thing.
And boycott does imply a concerted effort by a group trying to pull together, the strength of the community, so to speak. And I think most people that are that don't agree with the concept of boycotts, it's because they really don't work in that way, right? I mean, if you are I think a great example would be the whole Chick-fil-A thing. You had a small group, small minority in the gay community that didn't like the political stance of the owner-operator of the company, so they called for a boycott, and it absolutely did not work. Because everybody who liked Chick-fil-A didn't agree with them, lined up and said, we're out of chicken sandwiches. Okay, give us something else. We'll do anything we can to support it. And it was the best week for Chick-fil-A. These things don't work. But I do not completely negate the concept of the boycott, because as an idea, it is saying, look, I feel negatively about this company for this. I am going to withhold my money from them. And I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying you should, and if enough people feel that way, then there will be change, because you do vote with your dollar. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is, they're not one-to-one. Boycott and voting with your dollars are related, but not equivalent. But calling for a boycott is a great way to maybe catalyze voting with people's dollars. And I think Disney has seen people voting with their dollars in big ways. Whether or not it's a true effect of a boycott or not, it happened with the I Stand With Gina movement when people started canceling Disney Plus. Now they're seeing it again with this. This matters, and you really should. If you feel strongly about this, go, you know what? I don't think I need to go to Disney World this year. I think I'll withhold my money, and you know what? There's nothing playing on Disney Plus that I absolutely need to see. I think I'll just drop my subscription for the time being.
We need competition too. We need healthy competition entertainment. So if Disney's screwing up, maybe there's another family alternative out there. I think Nintendo actually is a very good family-oriented company, but their main focus is video games. They are getting involved in theme parks soon, though. But
I think all companies right now are dealing with the reverberations of this wokedness that we've been talking about for almost a decade now, and they're seeing that we were right when we said get woke, go broke. And I told you it was going to take a long time, but companies are now starting to change. We're going to be getting into another company that's dealing with the ramifications too, besides Disney. But as far as competition goes, they all need to go through this before we start seeing.
Oddly enough, Sony, I have a problem with their games division, but as far as the studios go, they seem to be getting better. A little better, at least.
They can't afford not to. They've been the low man on the totem pole, and if they were to get behind a model that doesn't work, they could go bankrupt. So they needed to get movies like Ghostbusters Afterlife and Sonic and whatever else out there.
Sonic is Paramount, but Paramount. Sorry. But Sonic, I'll give an example. There are people they always hated the fact that Sonic did well because they saw Sonic as an example of the fans complaining about something and then Paramount changing it for the better, and then the fans received it well and went to.
But the people with the money are going too damn bad. We're going to continue to make money. That's why we do this. I
suspect the people with the money were Sega themselves going over to Paramount and says, we're going to change this character, even if it costs you more money.
Well,
on this production.
And this is a positive example of voting with your dollars. The fans spoke out against the look of the first one. They acquiesced. The fans said, hey, that's pretty damn good. Yeah, maybe I will go see this movie. Then they found it was good, and they started telling their friends, hey, this is a good movie. So more people went, which is how it works. The what do you call it? The
word of mouth.
And it was an extremely successful film. Now a second movie comes out, and it's showing every sign that it's doing the same thing all over again.
What I find interesting about that Sonic movie is that I'd never seen a turnaround like that. Like everyone was expecting after the first trailer, this is going to be another huge bomb, because there've been a lot of terrible video game adaptations, and it went from that to what many people consider probably one of the best video game adaptations into a movie, because it's and it's actually a decent family film. You can take your kid to see it.
I don't know too much about computer graphics and stuff, but I was talking to a buddy that knows, and he was telling me, and if he's wrong, blame him. I don't know, but he was saying that when they released those initial shots and people reacted, not only did they react, but they were very specific. It's the eyes, it's the this, it's the that. Go back to the original source material, people. And so what they were able to do is literally do that. And they're like, well, okay, all we got to do is change the proportion of the eyes and change this and change that and re-render it. And that's a lot of work to re-render, but it's not like the individual artists had a great deal of work to do. Once they changed the parameters, they could do it. And we'll do it, and we'll see how it works. You know what? I'll just re-render this scene and then see what the fans say about that. Oh, they like it. Okay, let's just re-render the whole movie. That won't take too long.
It's not a crime to be wrong as long as you correct your mistake and do better. That's all we ask.
And it's this attitude of, it's acquiescing to, because there are these people that honestly believe that they are able to dictate what we consume. And that's not how it works. These are people that don't understand economy. Okay. These are socialists that don't understand the very basics of economics 101. Okay. Supply and demand. Okay. You don't supply what we're demanding. You make no money, period. You cannot dictate to us.
Did I already mention Pensic's comment here? Christopher Rufo leaked the video originally.
Oh, did he? There you go.
Yeah. Who was that? Silence. Never mind. Okay. Well, I'll do research on that for next week. Okay, Pensick, thank you for pointing that to my attention. Skip Disney, go to Universal Studios. Yes, Super Nintendo Land coming.
Christopher Rufo is a conservative activist, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute.
Yes.
And contributor
okay. Yeah.
to its magazine, City Journal.
Okay. He put it online, but who gave it to him? That's what we're wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. But anyway, let's go back to the smackening. Oh, please. I don't want to talk about this again next week.
I know.
The fallout from this. It's like 3 weeks.
I'm starting to think it's got to run its course. I can't imagine there's anything more that's going to come of this.
I'm actually, I don't agree with what he did. I do think he feels bad about what he did. I hope, but I also worry that he may not. I don't want to see a obituary in the next couple of weeks about a certain actor we're going to be talking about soon. Because
I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen though is it is going to. I think this is finally going to destroy his marriage. I mean, if it doesn't, then he's just a dumbass. He's in a toxic relationship. He needs to get away from her.
Will Smith biopic shelved after Oscar slapped. Man, he's losing everything. Yeah. Of course, it might have been an interesting biopic. The bidding war for Will Smith.
That's actually could have been a good ending to it, right? I mean, that would have been
the end of his career.
Yeah,
they're probably there will be a movie about this someday.
Probably.
It will happen, whether it'll be a theatrical or if it's going to be.
It's funny because this biopic might actually be resurrected in about 10 years.
Oh, I had this horrible. Never mind. I'm not going to say it out loud. I was thinking like after he passes, like the kids might decide to. Oh no, I'm thinking Mommy Dearest Part 2 or something.
God,
remember Mommy Dearest?
I do.
That'll be next week's Good Old Days. I'm kidding, of course.
No wire hangers.
It's a terrible film. Okay. The bidding war for Will Smith's biopic is over after Netflix and Apple Plus both pulled out following his Oscar slap scandal. Interesting phraseology there. Insiders said the streaming giants have removed their bids amid the fallout from Smith hitting comic Chris Rock on stage. We revealed last month that the companies were fighting to secure rights to the film about Smith's right based on the best-selling autobiography that came out last year. Okay, so he had a memoir come out last year. But a source revealed yesterday Netflix and Apple Plus have quietly removed their bids for a Will Smith biopic and will instead relocate the funds and develop original ideas from new black actors. Working with Will has become a risky business. They now plan on developing ideas with more family-friendly stars like Mike Epps and Michael B. Jordan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's not good. More fallout. Will Smith banned from Oscars for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of. Would he have starred in his own biopic? I wonder.
Only if they were going to do the whole de-aging thing like they did in that one movie he was in.
Deleted scenes.
I also wouldn't be I would also, knowing him, expect that he'd probably have his son play him as a younger person, because he's always looking for a way to pull his son into stuff.
And these were the people who released Cuties. Yes, Netflix. Yes.
Yep. Well, because look, these are people that have absolutely no actual morals. They go by whatever they see in the wind.
Wasn't that being tried in a court in Texas? Weren't they trying to do something with that, with the Cuties thing?
Yeah, and as I recall, it came down to, and I think it's being appealed. But yeah, they were like, yeah, this is that kind of bad material. That's very clear that it is, and as long as there's a law about it, but yeah, I think it's still being appealed. There's more going on with that, but
so let's read this. With their options rather limited, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Board of Governors has just decided that Will Smith will not be able to attend the Oscars for 10 years for slapping Chris Rock on stage at the 94th Annual Academy Awards on March 27th. The board has decided for a period of 10 years from April 8, 2022, Mr. Smith is not permitted to attend any Academy events or programs in person or virtually, including but not limited to the Academy Awards, say AMPAS. President David Rubin and CEO Dawn Hudson of Smith's unacceptable and harmful behavior in a letter to the full membership after the contentious 9 a.m. Pacific time virtual meeting today concluded. We also hope this can begin a time of healing and restoration for all involved and impacted. They added at the end of the letter with no pun undoubtedly intended. I accept and respect the Academy's decision, Smith said in a succinct statement soon after AMPAS made their POV public. Okay, point of view. All right.
Yeah.
Not that there was a lot more than AMPAS board, which includes Steven Spielberg, Ava DuVernay, Laura Dern, and Whoopi Goldberg among its current roster could really do. Seeing where this debacle was likely going to end up, Smith made a chess move on April 1st and immediately resigned from AMPAS. Okay.
Yep.
Academy of Motion Pictures Arts
And
and Sciences.
the one thing I want to bring up was that very first line about, what was it you said? It was something about their options rather limited. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit for a second about why it's so limited. Okay, because there have been a lot of people saying that they never should have given him the Oscar and they should take his Oscar back. But here's why they're limited. If they decided to take Will's Oscar back, that opens them up to the critique of, well, wait a minute, why haven't you taken back the Oscars to other people that have done arguably far worse things than punch somebody on stage?
Yeah,
People like Roman Polanski and
I'm sure Weinstein is
won
several awards. Yeah. And ultimately, you're not being given the award for good behavior. You're being given the award for giving a good performance, which is what it was for. You're not, sometimes being a good artist and a good person are two totally different things. Sometimes you should, maybe it's best if you could be both, but if you can only be one, be a good person, I would argue. But it's okay. It's a mess he's in. I don't know how he'll recover from it, if he will.
Well, the worst part about it is that this could have gone either way. There is the possibility that Hollywood would have decided to forgive him and stand beside him and, argue, yeah, that joke was out of line. If they had, this would all be a very different situation. But the Oscars and Hollywood in general find themselves in this post, what's his name, Ricky Gervais era, where they realize people are turning on them and this makes them look bad. And when you make the Hollywood elites look bad, you get ostracized.
Do you know why the Academy Awards came into being to begin with? I'm not going to say there was never any merit to I'm sure they were recognizing good work, but I think a lot of the original intent is that Americans at the time did not have a great opinion of Hollywood. So the idea was this was going to help rehabilitate Hollywood's image by having these nice award ceremonies and
for a long time it really was, because it is exactly what led to this idea of the American royalty being the Hollywood elite. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, it comes back to get woke, go broke. You could point to Marlon Brando having the Native American girl, accept the award and, talk about the plight of the Native Americans and all the other political things that have happened, in the years since. But it's been going downhill. And we finally get to Ricky Gervais calling everyone out on it and everyone agreeing with him, everyone that's not in the Hollywood elite. And then this is like the punctuation at the end of that. Yep, Ricky Gervais was right. See, this is the perfect example,
He
everybody.
warned you he wasn't
Yep.
doing this. Here's the thing, too. Ricky Gervais, he's not a guy from the right. He's just
No, he's not. Not at all.
yeah, he's just recognizing that some of the behavior you've gone too far. Yeah, with a lot of this behavior.
Look,
Courtney's
and even look at people like John Cleese, Eric Idle, these kinds of guys. These guys are also very, classically liberal type of people, but they are the first ones that'll come out and speak against the idea of shutting people down, canceling them, silencing, book burning, all that kind of stuff. That is anti-intellectual and anti-progressive.
Just opened my phone. It's you guys. Hi. Unfortunately, I can't stay, but happy Sunday. Much love.
Oh,
Welcome,
Courtney, I hope you can
Sales,
come back and, listen on the rewatch later or something when you have more
definitely.
time.
So
But it's always wonderful to have you here.
So we've had some comments in the chat about Will Smith's marriage and Jada Pinkett. We have an article
That's
about
a great picture, Courtney, by the way. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. So Jada Pinkett Smith. Okay, so here we go.
And I was just making a joke to Auditor Dredd. I said, I feel like Jada Pinkett is trying to give Amber Heard a run for the worst life choice in history award.
Yeah. So Jada Pinkett Smith confesses that she really didn't want to get married to Will Smith. In fact, the Matrix actress, now on the roasting spit of Smith's infamous Oscar smackdown of Chris Rock in the Academy decision Friday to ban him from the ceremony for 10 years, admitted to crying down the freaking aisle before tying the knot with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air star on New Year's Eve in 1997. I was under so much pressure, being a young actress, being young, and I was just like pregnant, and I just didn't know what to do, declared Pinkett Smith 50 in a freshly exhumed snippet from her Red Table Talk Facebook series, I Never Wanted to Be Married. In the clip from 2018, which has resurfaced amid renewed controversy around her Louche, Louche.
Don't know.
I don't know what the word is. Okay, entanglement with R&B singer August Aslina 29. Pinkett Smith candidly recalls her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, also known as Gammy, 68, forcing her and Smith to wed after she became pregnant with their first son together, Jaden, now 23. I really don't want to get married, Pinkett said. Pinkett had restated while seated around the circular table with her mom as well as Smith, 53, and their daughter, Willow, 21. We only got married because Gammy was crying, a chuckling Smith informed Willow. I'm a little curious. Hold on. How old is Jaden? 23. She's 50. That would have meant she was 27 at the time they got married?
I guess.
Okay, well, it's not like she's 18 out of high school, even. That's. Any thoughts, Troy?
Apparently, it's pronounced louche, and it means disreputable or sordid in a rakish or appalling way.
Louche. I don't think I've ever heard that word before. I've learned something too. Louche. I've heard lascivious, but okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's these people that like to use French words to sound like they're really smart.
If it's a legitimate word, it's fine. It
is, but you don't have to go to another language. We have plenty of words in English that would suffice.
It's so fetch.
It's so fetch.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to post this because she got married for the money in the clout. Speaking of clout.
Oh, yeah.
Another article. Okay,
the next article that applies directly.
Don't use me for clout and resurface video. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, this was an older video, but a lot of people are passing this one around basically saying things like, hey, Will, blink twice if you need us to send help or whatever. And it's very clear he's a cuck who's in a bad relationship, an emotionally abusive relationship. And, I did want to, I was in the chat talking about this whole concept of him having an open relationship. Don't you believe it? Okay. When someone like Will Smith says that they have an open relationship, that's a cuck who finds out that his wife is cheating on him, wants to save his marriage, and so he says they have an open relationship.
Right.
When in reality, he is acquiescing and trying to save a doomed relationship.
Yeah.
Is all it is.
So now with Will Smith on everyone's mind, an old video has resurfaced in which Will Smith warned his wife Jada Pinkett Smith not to use him for clout. The video, which was originally streamed on Jada Pinkett Smith's Instagram Live, is 49 seconds long.
Go to my other
Netter was just pointing out that I'm out of soda now because I've drunk all of her soda, so she's giving me a diet green tea citrus. That's
Don't
what I'm
drink
sipping
her
on.
soda.
I got nothing else.
You know what? You'll decide. It's
There's water.
Yeah.
There's water. He's like, there was a scene on Game of Thrones. I'm sorry, like the second where the Hound says, "Bring me something." They're in a battle, and the Hound is saying, "Bring me something to drink." And the guy brings him over a flask, and he drinks it. And he goes, and he spits it out. What is this? And he's like, "It's water. Bring me wine." He got really angry at the guy. And I'm like, "Well, you're in the middle of a war. It's like, why are you asking for wine? You should be asking for water." I mean, I don't think. Anyway, so now with Will Smith on everyone's mind, an old video has resurfaced, which Will has warned his wife Jada Pinkett not to use him for clout. The video, which was originally streamed on Jada Pinkett Smith's Instagram Live, is 49 seconds long. It's clear that Will Smith is quite uncomfortable in the video, mostly by Jada Pinkett Smith recording him so abruptly. She first begins by stating the following: this is her therapist. Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. She continued by asking Will Smith a direct question with the camera pointed right at him. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship? Will Smith responded with the following: I would say, don't just start filming me without asking me. It's clear that Jada Pinkett Smith doesn't care, merely saying she's still dealing with foolishness. If that wasn't enough, she added the following question: would you say that she helped us heal the hurts that we caused between one another? At that point, Will Smith does this say, my social media presence is my bread and butter, so you can't just use me for social media. Don't just start rolling. I'm standing in my house. Don't start rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that is pretty fair, I think.
Yeah. And more fallout. And unfortunately, it's not just Will Smith getting hurt by all of this. It's also people who are associated with him, and this is actually what I feel the worst about.
Well, the other thing too is I have never heard of anyone in an open relationship who had what you'd call a healthy relationship. Just it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm a full believer you shit or you get off the pot. Okay. If you are going to dedicate yourself to someone, you do it. And if you want to go half measures, you don't actually get married.
The issue was the pregnancy. I know that. I mean, I know they think it's probably better for the kid, but at the same time, this is
but see, there were choices that happened before that too. See, I'm sorry, I have absolutely zero.
And here's the thing: I thought she was younger when she's talking about this, but it sounds like she was in her later 20s. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not like they were dumb kids.
Yeah. I mean, if she was like right out of high school or something, that'd be different. But this is just, I mean, not that I was super smart, but I was smart enough.
But then look at how these kids are turning out. All the non-binary, they, them, not to mention the kid would never get an acting job if his father wasn't nepotizing him, because he has zero talent.
Yeah, I think one of them showed up at a wedding in a Batman costume, right? Wasn't that?
For fuck's sake. Not to mention, he right after the slapping happened, the kid tweeted out, "That's how we do it." I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you end your career, dumbass.
Yeah, it's not going to help you either. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Beverly Hills Cop 4 Mark Malloy to direct next installment for Netflix. The long-gestating sequel to the hit comedy franchise Beverly Hills Cop looks to be gaining momentum, as sources tell Deadline that up-and-coming director Mark Malloy has been set to direct Beverly Hills Cop 4. Eddie Murphy is expected to reprise his role of Axel Foley, with Netflix on board to distribute. Jerry Bruckheimer is back to produce. Will Beal pen the script. Who's doing the soundtrack? That's what I want to know. Anyway, Malloy replaces directing duo Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, who parted ways with the project to focus on the Warner Brothers' Big Batgirl, which recently wrapped up production and is set to bow on HBO Max. Insiders at Beverly Hills Cop 4 is still in development, and no production start date has been set. Netflix has no comment on the hire. Franchise moved from Paramount to Netflix in the winter of 2019. In the winter of 2019, and follows the adventures of Detroit cop Foley, who first appeared in the 1984 smash hit that followed him to Beverly Hills to solve the murder of a friend. The film begins one of the year's biggest hits and solidified Murphy's movie star status. It was followed by 2 sequels, one of which was good. I'm sorry I added that last part.
No. That's absolutely fine.
I like 2. I know people at the time picked on, it's like the first one. That's not a bad thing if it's like the first one. 3 I didn't care for. They toned Murphy down.
How does this apply to the smackening? The reason is it's not really so much about Mark Malloy being tapped to direct. It's that the previous directors, Arby and Falla.
Yeah, I have a quote here that you sent me. I can. Oh,
Yep.
well,
Go
maybe you want me to read this quote that you had in the notes? Okay.
And this is
if that was privileged or anything. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is a quote from Kamran Pasha.
Right.
As you all know, he's an industry insider. This is his take on it. Will Smith's proteges, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, are being targeted by the industry for their association with their mentor, Will Smith. They were set to direct Beverly Hills Cop 4, but it has been announced that they are being replaced by Mark Malloy. The trades are trying to give the town cover by claiming that this is due to their involvement with Batgirl, but that movie has finished filming and is in the final stages of post-production. They would have been available to direct the next film in a few short weeks at the latest. I did also want to add, I don't have any attribution on this, but we have already talked about, I think we talked about it last week, how Bad Boys 4 has been canceled. So that's another example where everyone who was involved in that movie, including Martin Lawrence, is out of work because of this. You know, they didn't do anything wrong, but, you know, the project falls through because Will Smith. Thanks a lot, Will.
Yeah, I don't know what advice I could give these 2 young directors. Perhaps if they have leeway, you were mentioning how the UK is becoming bigger with movie production. Maybe they can figure out a way to get over there.
Honestly, and these are people that Cameron really does know.
Yeah.
And he has basically said, you know, it's going to take them like 10 years to recoup what they've lost. But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to go back to indie projects, rebuild themselves, and start over again. That's what's going to have to happen. And honestly, Cameron would know because he's literally been in that situation.
It's a shame. What's funny, Oliver Stone, his directorial debut was a horror movie called The Hand. I think I've mentioned it before about how I'm a big fan of the movie. It kind of bombed at the box office, and his career was sidelined for years because of that. He had to go back into screenwriting instead of directing because he couldn't get directorial jobs, I guess, until Platoon came about. Remember Platoon?
Yep.
And what I thought was interesting about The Hand, though, was it actually is what I consider to be an excellent horror movie with Michael Caine in it, but it just, for some reason, the audience didn't run out to see it. Because I was actually shocked. I thought it was going to be dumb. It's Michael Caine because he's been known for starring, especially in that point in his career, in a lot of crap movies, but that was actually rather good. And like I said, because they probably would have picked him to direct Conan the Barbarian, except for the fact that because he had written the screenplay for the original screenplay for Conan the Barbarian, the movie, but I think The Hand bombed too much, so they went with John Milius, and you know, I think it worked out anyway because Milius did a great job with Conan the Barbarian, but that can happen. Your career can get stalled, but what upsets me about these 2 is that this is something out of their control. They had nothing to do with this, so it feels, I don't know.
Well, but that's business, right? You know, I mean, I don't know, the CEO of a company embezzles and causes the business to go out of business, y'all lose your job. It's unfair. That's what happens. Will Smith does something stupid, destroys his career, destroys all the projects he's working on. Everyone that was going to be working on those projects is out of work. And this is no different than the rant that Tom Cruise went on about, mask mandates and stuff during the filming of whatever project he was working on. You're putting this project at risk, and this is other people's money. Get your shit together. This is not about, whether or not you agree with mandates. This is what we need to do in order to work. Get your shit together.
Oh, hello, Daniel. By the way, I will be on with him this week. We're going to be doing a rewatch of Bullet on Wednesday night. Okay, so now we move on to what I consider the big story of the week. I almost just thought this was like the biggest thing. I was originally only going to put this in the headline, but I decided, we'll do the other things too. But Ann Sarnoff out as WarnerMedia as Discovery merger nears closing. Wow. I was trying to remember. I know I've talked about Ann Sarnoff on this channel before, haven't I?
Yeah, a little bit.
And I think my impression was she was the Kathleen Kennedy of Warner Brothers. I could be wrong here. Maybe I know there's some woman in charge of programming at Amazon that I find cringe too, but I think Ann Sarnoff, she rubbed me the wrong way. I remember that, but apparently she's out due to the merger. So let's see here. WarnerMedia Studios and Networks Group Chairman and CEO Ann Sarnoff is leaving her post as the company prepares to complete its $43 billion merger with Discovery by week's end. Sarnoff was informed by leadership on Tuesday that her position would be eliminated. One insider said the ground is shifting rapidly for executives and other divisions at the media giant as it nears the finish line of the merger deal that surprised Hollywood in May of 2021. I want to thank Ann for all of her leadership during this transformational period for the company and our industry. She has been a passionate and committed steward of the world's most formidable creative engine and has led with integrity, focus, and hard work in bringing WarnerMedia's businesses, brands, and workforce closer together, said David Zaslav, the incoming CEO of the merged Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh, yikes. Are they going to call it Warner Brothers Discovery?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't like the...
Well, until they... let's face it, this is a transitionary period. They're going to have to decide what works.
Sarnoff joined the company in 2019 and counted a massive portfolio of brands under her purview, including the Warner Brothers Pictures Group, HBO and HBO Max, Warner Brothers Television, DC, Warner Brothers Animation, TBS, TNT, and the Harry Potter Wizarding World. She also oversaw the consumer products and experiences division. I was actually watching a Midnight's Edge video. They say they think she was done, or maybe they know she was the one responsible for getting rid of a certain actor who was playing a villain in the Fantastic Beasts movie.
Yep.
Okay. There is a lot of exciting momentum at the company, and I appreciate all of her counsel and partnership the last few months, putting us in a position to succeed as we launch Warner Brothers Discovery. We all wish her great success in the future, Zaslav concluded. In a note to WarnerMedia staffers, Sarnoff said she was proud of her role in helping reorganize Warner Brothers, HBO, and Turner networks for a new era. Sarnoff joined the company in 2019 and counted a massive portfolio. Did I just read this? I did. Never mind. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. In a note to WarnerMedia staffer, Sarnoff said she was proud of her role. Okay, I already read that. Okay, right. I copied twice. Okay, good for Warner Brothers. We don't know yet. I think maybe.
So what this is going down as, this and some other articles that we have coming up, it's a friggin' bloodbath over there. They are jettisoning people as this merger is starting to happen. And this should not come as too big a surprise either.
Yes, Mrs. Aquaman has lost some allies at Warner Brothers. I agree with you, Auditor Dread.
Oh, yeah. People are turning on her left and right because she's just toxic, right? And as people have been involved with her, they've wanted to keep their relationship with her quiet. But as they get subpoenaed into these very public legal proceedings, That pisses people off.
What do you mean relationship with her private? No.
I'm talking about a certain Rocket Man who recently bought a sizable
Oh,
interest
him.
in a social
Him.
media company,
Okay, him.
and
I,
possibly some of her co-actors.
no. No. That would make sense with a certain separation, or was it a divorce recently announced?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. No, no, no.
So yeah, anytime. Look, when you throw a stone into a bee's nest, okay, you piss a lot of bees off. Well, this whole, you know, Amber's turd and pirate guy situation is a huge bee's nest, and the whole Hollywood bee community is getting upset about it.
Oh, isn't that okay? It's interesting. Eh, I it's funny because I remember you telling me not to be do a story on those even worse the Batman rumors from a while back, and
Mm-hmm.
now apparently there was stuff happening may have actually been happening in the Aquaman 2 set. Okay, so
I
you
still
don't
stand by
know.
what
You
I
don't
said
know.
then. I don't think we should be talking about things that are just, speculative and
And
rumors,
we're
you know.
speculating right now, so we'll stop. Okay.
But when stuff starts coming out, yeah, we do need to comment on it, you
Okay,
know.
so in a Bloodbath Tuesday at WarnerMedia, I love the way that starts. I think a certain other actor is not long for this world too, but we'll get to that. Hold on.
Yeah. A
Okay, in a blood.
certain they them actor.
Ah, and well, I'll make sure to use their pronouns correctly. In a Bloodbath Tuesday at
That's
WarnerMedia.
entirely up to you. I personally refuse to refer to somebody in the plural just because they feel like they're more than one person.
No, my point was is that it's like this person's career is over, so
Yeah.
I'll throw them that bone anyway. In a Bloodbath Tuesday, we'll get to that. I'm sorry. Anyway. In a Bloodbath Tuesday at Warner Media, ahead of the closing of the Discovery merger at HBO Max, head Andy Forcell to this list of exiting executives. Deadline has confirmed that he joins Warner Media Studios and Networks Group Chairman and CEO and Sarnoff Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, who will also depart. I think Jason Kilar got kicked out of that whole day and
Yeah.
date thing. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was a disaster.
That was a big part of it, I'm sure.
It's been buzzed that Discovery CEO David Zaslav does not like layers. Well, 3 layers just got depleted. Indications are that the $43 billion merger is likely to officially close Friday. JB Peretti, president and CEO of Discovery Streaming and International, had been widely speculated to be taking over the newly merged company's combined direct-to-consumer streaming operation even before Forcell's exit became official. HBO Max and HBO programming chief Casey Bloys is expected to continue in a key role, likely similar to his current position in Zaslav's post-merger plans. We're hearing that Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group studio chairman Toby Emmerich, Channing Dungey, chairman of Warner Brothers Television, and Warner Brothers COO Carolyn Blackwood are safe for the time being. Interestingly enough, Forcell, Kilar, and Sarnoff were part of a sit-down with media reporters back in October. This was perceived by some to be an exit tour for the trio, even though Kilar was mum at the time about his rumored departure. All 3 banged the drum about the rah-rah of HBO Max, how they're returning to theatrical in 2022, that sequels were happening for Dune, which saw its grosses siphoned by HBO Max as the pick made only $108 million stateside. They lost money on that because of this day and date. Because they didn't do very well in Europe and even in Asia, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Forcell mentioned the deadline during the sit-down with him that there were no imminent plans for HBO Max to report ratings on its programming, saying that the various streamers, as they come to greater strength, will determine their means of benchmarking. To date, most of the viewership results for such big shows as Succession and Euphoria, reported by the network, have been a combined figure for both the linear and streaming service. That's a mouthful. The biggest upset here is Sarnoff. Optically, some speculated it wouldn't look good for the new merger to see a high-level female executive exit, that some sort of new position would be offered under the new regime. Sarnoff's exit email didn't provide a solid answer as to why she was leaving, the exec writing with a sundry of accomplishments. It's never easy stepping into a leadership role whether it's at a 96-year-old studio or a newly formed business group. But in both cases, I was confident in our ability to succeed because I was surrounded by some of the smartest, most creative, and most innovative teams I've ever worked with. So they're giving her a nice goodbye, but she's out. That's what I'm
Right.
looking at this as. You know, she can still probably work somewhere else if she wants to.
We talk about this all the time. You have to kind of read between the lines with these situations. When people get let go in these high positions, they get all the accolades and the thank yous, and they go on and on about all the great things they did. But behind the scenes, they're saying, you screwed up. You screwed up big time. You're going. Goodbye.
It's interesting how a certain other place, I'm waiting for other shoes to drop at certain other corporations on certain people. It has to happen at some point.
It has to.
But actually, to be fair, though, Warner Brothers, I'll say, its legacy I've always found a lot more interesting than the other studios, and I want Warner Brothers to be a great company again like they used to be, and
Agreed.
to knock it off with the BS. And they have to get things in order as far as how they're handling the DC Comics characters, or just drop making DC movies for a while. They have to figure it out. And they got to go look. I don't know if this merger deal has anything to do with DC Comics, the actual comics being made, but they need to shut that down.
I think what really needs to happen is, again, this is always going to be dollar driven. So if people don't turn out for Flashpoint and Aquaman 2, and I don't know, what the hell else do they got going on?
There's the Batgirl movie that's coming out.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but, it could be good. You never know. Anyways.
Even if it's a good movie, even if it's a good Batgirl movie, it's
Shazam.
It's a clusterfuck of marketing. There is no branding here. There's like 3, 4, 5 different Batman universes going on simultaneously.
It's called the multiverse. Have you heard of it?
Yes, it's all I hear about. You know what would be really special? One single solitary timeline that we could follow smoothly and easily.
You know what would be really special? Maybe a decent Superman movie.
One
for a
could
change.
only hope. Yeah.
You'd figure they'd make one by accident at this point. Just
right? Exactly.
I remember seeing Superman Returns, and I'm like, yeah, I have a bad feeling about this. My friends like, what? The critics were kind of mixed. What's the matter? You can't make your own decisions. And then I like Brandon Routh in the role. I felt he was underused, but everything else about that movie I had problems with. And then
there was some good casting. There was some terrible casting. I liked Brandon Routh. I liked what's his name? Dracula, who played Perry White.
Why am I missing his name? Frank Langella.
Yeah. He did a great job. I even liked the child diddler that played Lex Luthor. I mean, but
Kevin Spacey's done some great roles.
They really blew it, I felt, with Lois Lane. Pick an eye color, girl. Just pick an eye color.
By the way, I did want to mention, actually, if you like Frank Langella, if you ever do get around to watching that show, The Americans, he's on it.
Oh, okay.
He plays one of the Russian handler guys and of course, he speaks with a perfect American accent, but he's obviously one of the Soviet guys.
Well, if you're a spy, you better be able to do a good accent. Yeah.
And he's really good on The Americans. It was nice seeing him on that role. In fact, it's interesting how he's transitioned to different roles in his career. Like he used to be a big time leading man, especially in that Dracula movie.
Yeah.
But even when he got
almost
older,
like he's a really good actor,
Yeah, well, that's always nice. Anyway, here we go. So less than 24 hours after CEO Jason Kellar, the guy that wrote that wonderful note to the fired staff. I remember that.
Yeah.
HBO Max boss Andy Forso and studio head over a pink slip from the soon to disappear WarnerMedia. More executives shown the door Wednesday. Is this like going on? Like the people they said were safe for now are not safe in this article? This group includes CFO.
And as I recall, I think we even said that at the time. It's like, he's going to be gone soon, and all the people he's writing this to are going to be gone soon. You just watch. This is that other shoe dropping.
Christy Habegger, who is also the chief inclusion officer. What's an inclusion officer?
It's one of those people that say we don't have enough people of color. We don't have enough people that like people of the same sex. We don't have enough people that are confused about what their gender is.
Okay, EVP Chief Human Resources Officer Jim Cummings, EVP Chief Revenue Officers Tony. Someone over at Discovery is cleaning house, and I wonder why. Do they know do they know the score of what's going on over here at WarnerMedia? Do they realize that they've wasted a ton of money and they're running things incompetently? I'm just
almost
guessing.
Certainly.
The latest series of exits comes with 48 hours before the newly minted Discovery WarnerMedia merger will be final, with Discovery boss David Zaslav as CEO. Zaslav is a guy who doesn't like a lot of fat in his corporate structure, and this morning's massive firing underscores that. The newly merged company looks to debut Monday on Wall Street, sources tell us. Maybe this would be the time to invest, huh? I don't know. Staying on for... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that... There is an element of, if you don't do it now, it'll be done after the merger, and they need to position for the best introduction to Wall Street as possible.
Okay. Staying on for the short term to help with the transition, communications boss Hal Bager just sent out a memo to staff. On a personal level, this journey has been the peak of my career. She wrote Wednesday, your talents have made it an honor, and your friendship made it all a joy. The well-respected execs. Okay, see the full memo below. I think I'll skip that one. More high-level departures are expected, though we hear that they might come in the next few weeks as opposed to the next few hours of days. We do know that David Haddad, Warner Brothers President, Warner Brothers Games, and Gerhard Zieler, President, WarnerMedia International, are both sticking around despite no longer having Killar to report directly to anyone. Granted, I only worked at a newspaper. It's not a big-time corporation, but I was there when the purge happened at the paper and seeing people getting let go left and right. And
I didn't know you worked for a newspaper. Would you say it was a major metropolitan newspaper?
No, a local family-owned paper that actually did run a few counties, but yeah, it was like your local paper, but the main paper for a big chunk of the area I live in.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, people were getting laid off left and right. But we hear that Zaslav is all about the motion picture studio and thinks it needs to be fixed. Warner Brothers returned to a theatrical window this year with the Batman after an HBO Max day and date strategy last year has been successful. That Matt Reeves directing pick grossed over $700 million. At the same time, it was announced Tuesday with Sarnoff's exit that her role won't be duplicated in the new organizational structure of the combined company. With all this movement out of the company this week, longtime Zaslav aide Aidra Alpert Rom looks to be a pivotal player going forward. Discovery Communications SCVP, Human Relations and Global Diversity, is right now set to retire at the end of the year. Interesting. However, with events moving so quickly and Red Wedding-like staffing changes occurring, we hear that Rom could delay her retirement for a second time to help Zaslav run the huge newly merged company. Certainly the jump from relatively small ship of Discovery to the aircraft carrier that is WarnerMedia will require a steep and fast learning curve on the part of Zaslav, Rom, and other members of the Discovery Inner Circle. An uptick as quick as WarnerMedia execs walking the plank, one could say, at least for now. It's funny they mentioned Red Wedding because I think of one of the biggest disasters, which was the Game of Thrones final season.
Yeah.
And in defense, I don't even blame the execs at HBO for that. I think they left Dumb and Dumber in charge, and they had done a good job up to that point, and they wanted to wrap the show up because I don't think anybody necessarily wanted that show to end. I think they would have allowed it to keep going till it was ready to properly end, but they wanted to wrap it up to get started on that Star Wars project for Disney that they'll never make. But
Yep.
I don't know. HBO is a mixed bag. I'm watching a show on there now, but called Tokyo Vice, which is interesting.
Yep.
We'll see. What do you think?
I wanted to do a quick side note to Auditor
Sure.
Dredd. He was making a joke about if you worked for the Daily Planet or the Daily Bugle, and I was starting to type, but I'm lazy and I have a mic, so I'm going to say it. If based on your description of the newspaper you worked for, you could have, although it wasn't specifically this newspaper, the actual real world Metropolis Planet is a small newspaper that services Massac County, Illinois, and Paducah County, Kentucky. It's one of those really little, podunk type of things. It's really just, this is what's happening at the fair this week, and these are the obituaries. And
yeah, and that's sort of what I worked for.
The Jones kids are going to be selling lemonade on the corner this week, stuff like that.
I have to say, if you were running Warner Brothers, what would you do? Now you're Zaslav. What would you try to fix first?
Well, I would basically be doing exactly what I'm seeing here. I would start looking at where is the fat? Where do we have overlap? We got people from the different companies coming together. We're merging jobs and getting rid of the one that has historically not been producing. But then immediately after doing that, I start looking at, but is that secondary person even the person I want in that position? Have they been performing, or do I need to bring in someone new entirely? Okay. And then I start looking at each individual department and say, historically, how have they been doing? Right? Have they been bringing in money or losing us money? Do we want to keep this department? Do we want to revamp this department? Or do we want to invest in this department? And the reason I say it the way that I am is because I feel like your implied question, especially because of some of the notes I've seen people commenting in the comments there, what's going to happen to DC Comics? That's a big question. They're going to look at that and say, well, are the IPs that they represent valuable to us because of the movie department? Maybe, maybe not. Definitely the comics are a sink. So do we revamp it? Do we get rid of the people that are working for it? Do we outsource it? What do we do with that?
You do a purge at DC Comics. It needs to
There
happen.
is going to be a purge. You're absolutely right about that. But what happens after the purge? Do they hire new people and continue to keep the comic industry in-house at Warner Brothers? Do they outsource it to another company?
Like have another company make the comics like any independent publisher. Remember there was that one group of comics creators was trying to go to Warner Brothers, hey, we want to purchase DC.
Yeah.
But still keep the film rights on anything's created thus far, but they know what was going on over there. Go ahead. Sorry. You there? Oh, you muted. But yeah, I don't know. Warner Brothers keeps losing good opportunities to make a Superman movie. I don't know what's going on there, Joshua V. I remember seeing Man of Steel, and I'm like, I already had a bad feeling about Man of Steel from the trailers. And it just did not look good. But I did go to see it, and it just...
Sorry, didn't realize I'd gone on mute for some reason.
Yeah, no, okay. Sorry, I thought you had an emergency or something.
No, not at all. My apologies. No, what I was trying to say was that, unfortunately, one thing that we don't know, because there hasn't been anything about it, there hasn't been any numbers for us to look at, is how profitable has the marketing and films for the DC, segment been. Superhero movies are big in quotes, but they've been trailing off, and DC has not been anywhere near as successful as Marvel has been. Just period, outright. So there might be a question of, is it even worthwhile to us to even keep these IPs? I know it's a radical thought, although some people have mentioned it before. I'm not sure that it's off the table that they just don't sell off DC Comics to someone else.
We'll see. It depends on what value Discovery, I guess, sees in the comics and what they want to even be doing. Because have any of these DC movies been hugely successful? I mean, I guess Joker did good.
Joker did well. Apparently,
this new Batman has
done well. But one who is really sharp in, Warner Brothers, and looking at the analytics on that, could very easily say, but is this really going to translate to success with the greater DC properties? We've pointed out that Joker wasn't really a Joker movie. It was really just a remake of The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. And that Batman wasn't really a Batman movie. It was just a remake of Seven and Zodiac.
Yeah, supposedly. I haven't seen it, but that's what we've heard, right?
And they don't appear to take place they certainly don't take place in the Snyder universe, and who knows what the hell it's going to be.
Apparently that was originally supposed to be the Batfleck movie, but then they ended up changing it to to this other Batman movie.
It's a complete freaking mess, and it may very well come down to, do they want to take the time and energy and money to get back to brass tacks and start from scratch, or do we just scrap it all?
Part of the problem is they have all these multiple projects in the wings.
Yeah. But are they worthwhile projects? Are they even worth it?
I don't know. Well, they have the Shazam movie. The Shazam sequel is still coming out. I know that.
Yay!
Remember we did last week? They're apparently the CG effects are like, and then of course we have the Flash movie coming out, which.
Well, and see that all eyes are going to be on that film, right? Because they're going to do Flashpoint, and this is their opportunity to actually decide what they're going to do with this universe going forward. If they don't take this opportunity, they may as well just quit.
Maybe they should just bring the actor from the television Flash and just stick him in the DCU at this point.
Honestly, a lot of people have been saying that. Not only that, it could be genius if all you do is, it's something they could probably work out in the editing, where history gets changed, and then in the middle of in the blur of him moving through time, it changes from being Ezra Miller to the CW kid.
Yeah, well, because I don't think he's choking people on camera and breaking into apartments, or hotel rooms and stuff. Just okay. Pop culture classroom attempts to get Terror on the Prairie actress Gina Carano removed from the Fan Expo in Denver.
Yeah, we probably don't want to spend too much time on this, but there was this.
I'll just read the first paragraph. Yeah, Pop culture classroom, an organization that claims to inspire a love of learning, increase literacy, celebrate diversity, builds community through the rules of popular culture and power of self,
and the banning of books.
Admitted that they attempted to get actress Gina Carano removed from the upcoming Fan Expo Denver. But apparently that wasn't successful. She's still going to be there, right?
Yeah, as of right now, Fan Expo Denver is still promoting her. It's been implied by marketing that they've done on their Twitter page that they have no plans to back down. And honestly, the responses I'm seeing on Twitter to that are very reinforcing of that decision. It would kind of be a PR nightmare if they got rid of it. And they should know it. Okay. If Disney suffered because of the Gina Carano thing and they lost subscriptions and so forth, you better believe a Fan Expo that these conventions are on razor thin margins to begin with. They can't afford any bullshit.
I am wondering too where conventions are, because a lot of this stuff went nuts during the pandemic, culturally speaking, and now the cons are finally able to start coming about again. And I'm wondering if the mood will be changed at the cons, especially with all the culture wars going online during the last couple of years. I mean, who knows? Would I even be streaming now if not for the pandemic? I don't know. It's like we were all stuck in our houses.
Yeah, so I just recently found out something new about Gina Carano.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know this, but apparently I was a fan of Gina Carano before I knew who Gina Carano was. Mm-hmm. She had been a character named Crush on American Gladiators.
What?
And yes, and I remember being a fan of that, I guess you'd call it reboot of American Gladiators.
I see.
And she was one of my favorite characters. I was like, Man. And I remember thinking at the time, you know what? She'd make a great She-Hulk if they ever cast that role. And then, of
Really?
course, she comes out and she does Deadpool and, Star Wars and stuff. And I never drew the connection. Did not know that was Crush.
Interesting.
Yeah, right?
No, she showed up in a lot of movies. She was in one of the Fast and the Furious movies.
I heard about that. Yeah,
Apparently, so will another actress, but we'll talk about that another time.
yeah.
Why do they do this to me?
Why do they do this to themselves? I have to wonder.
I don't know. Okay, speaking of other entertainment news, can we move on now?
Oh, yeah.
Sherlock Holmes TV universe in the works at HBO Max. This I'm curious about, and because I'm always wondering, where is Sherlock Holmes 3? Do we remember the first 2 Sherlock Holmes movies? Did you see them?
I saw part of the first one.
The ones with Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
as Sherlock Holmes.
Didn't care for it.
You did what?
I didn't care for it. I am a purist when it comes to Sherlock Holmes. I'm a huge Jeremy Brett fan. I don't mind Basil Rathbone, but I did not care for this Iron Man Sherlock. I did not care for the Cumberbund show.
Well, that's different.
It really is.
But
I really didn't like the Lucy Liu one either.
I kind of liked Elementary. That's fine if you don't like it. It's fine. But I know, and I like the Robert Downey Jr. I'm the only one, it seems, in this community. Because Robert Downey Jr. is a really great actor. He has good comic timing, and
don't get me wrong. I didn't dislike him as Sherlock Holmes.
Right. But
I did not like the film itself. I feel like
it was more action orientated. Yeah, it was.
It reminded me a lot of Wild Wild West.
Well,
and I'm like, that's not what Sherlock Holmes is.
I haven't seen that. I know that that's a particularly bad Will Smith movie with I think Kevin Kline was in that as well.
Yes,
and Salma Hayek, and I didn't see it when it came out. But what I liked about that, the second Game of Shadows, I didn't like as much as the first one, because you're right, that was getting a little Wild Wild West. I like the actor they cast as Moriarty. I forget his name, but he was really good in that. And
Auditor says those Sherlocks are a bunch of bumblechucks. yes, they are.
Anyway, I got a kick out of it because I thought Downey's delivery of lines in that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like there's a line.
I agree.
There's a line when Inspector Lestrade said, "Holmes, in another life you would have made an excellent criminal." And then Holmes says back to him, "In another life, you would have made an excellent policeman." That was just, and like slapped him back.
And for a Sherlock fan, there is humor in that, because there really was that whole concept of what the hell is wrong with the London Police Department and Scotland Yard that they can't.
It's Scotland Yard is always the joke in everything. It's like they're always not getting it right.
The old time Keystone Cops, huh?
Yeah, and what I liked about that movie though was like him and Watson's relationship. It was a nice. It's actually they presented as it was a nice solid friendship, and of course Watson's engaged to get married, and then he has this whole thing about how I see by the ink stain on your fingers you're a governess, and he's doing a dress down of his fiance, right, or the woman he's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, but you had a ring on your finger, you used to have a ring on your finger, which means you left your old fiance and you broke off the engagement. And, and he dressed her down a little bit. And then she says, I didn't break off the engagement. My previous fiance died. And then she threw his wine in his face.
I do like deleted scenes. Stephen Otten points out was just Elementary was just a standard CBS procedural. I would even go so far as to say that of those modern Sherlock films or shows or whatever you want to call them, I'd honestly say House MD was a better Sherlock Holmes than Elementary, in my opinion.
I still watch Elementary. We can disagree. It's fine. And you're probably a Sherlock purist. Well, you're going to be getting more Sherlock. Okay. Jared Harris. Okay, that's right. Yeah, Richard Harris's son, who was a decent Moriarty. But let's move on.
And hey, Mr. Matchstick, good to see you here. We'll be pitching your channel in a little bit.
So anyway, let me read the article. Anyway, Elementary, my dear HBO Max. Sherlock Holmes might be coming to a television as the WarnerMedia back streamer is in early development of not one but two scripted series based on the beloved detective stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Robert Downey Jr., who famously played the detective in the 2009 Guy Ritchie feature film and its 2011 sequel, is on board to exec produce both shows via his Team Downing banner. Lionel Wigram, who recently received a story credit on the first film, produced both, is also on board as an exec producer. A third movie in the franchise was in development but never moved beyond that stage. It's unclear if Downey will reprise his role as Sherlock, as both projects remain in the early development stages. Team Downey, Susan Downey, and Amanda Burrell will also exec produce alongside the actor and Wigram. Additional details, including the premise and how interconnected both potential series could be, are being kept under wraps. Both projects hail from Warner Brothers Television, whose feature film counterpart produced the Sherlock features. Team Downey remains under an overall deal with HBO and produces the premium cable network's Perry Mason update. Reps for HBO Max and Warner's declined to comment.
Honestly, I don't understand why this project would even exist if not for, some sort of
Okay.
relationship to the third movie.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple possibilities of how one of these series can go about. Now, I don't know if they would want to cast Downey and have him in every episode of a series, but at the end of the last Sherlock Holmes movie, it was the famous Reichenbach's Falls scene where everybody thinks that Sherlock and Moriarty fall to their deaths over the falls,
Right.
And then, of course, you see Downey is still alive, but Sherlock Holmes is still alive, but he's in hiding, right? He's hiding out. And I keep wondering, maybe this could be a thing where he's helping other detectives and he kind of comes out of the shadows and he's in secret and he helps them out. So Sherlock would show up sometimes on the show to help out another detective. I don't know.
So
it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that was an idea I had.
There was an anniversary issue of Detective Comics. I want to say it was like issue 600 or something like that, back in the 80s. And it was a really cool Batman story that ended up with him meeting Sherlock Holmes as though, and like he was like really, really old. And
interesting.
Yeah, it was. So it sounds like this kind of concept you're talking about here.
Did you see the Mr. Holmes movie with Ian McKellen as the elderly Sherlock Holmes that came out? You might get a kick.
So, no.
You might get a kick out of that one because it's him as an older retired man in that. And what's funny is when they do a flashback to a scene when he was visiting Japan when he was younger, they have the actor who played young Sherlock Holmes in the young Sherlock Holmes movie playing the like in the flashback scene, which I thought was an interesting callback.
Oh, clever.
Did you ever see Young Sherlock Holmes?
I did, yes.
I like that movie a lot. I know some people don't, but we did it on Birdman's channel. That was a big childhood favorite of mine. But I don't know how these series would be. Another thing could be maybe about if it's taking place in the. Another thing we don't know, even though Team Downey's attached, is this related to the Sherlock Holmes movies that came out?
Yeah, that's what I was speculating. It almost seems pointless to have him involved if it's not. You know
what would be fascinating? I don't think they'd have the guts to do it. Imagine doing one regular Sherlock Holmes show and then doing another show about Professor Moriarty.
Interesting.
Like doing bad things and stuff,
interesting.
I mean, I don't know. It might be kind of interesting. I know they've had an anime series recently called Moriarty the Patriot, which is a show from Moriarty's point of view, which I haven't seen the show myself, but I've heard of it. But I don't know, because I don't know how you could really do a Sherlock Holmes expanded universe if Sherlock Holmes is really your main character, right? I mean,
honestly, it's this. You don't have to overthink Sherlock Holmes, right? You just do really good adaptations. There's a bunch of stories to be told, and unless I'm mistaken, they're in the public domain.
You know what would be interesting? Instead of going and adapting the typical Doyle stories, weren't there also plenty of people wrote Sherlock Holmes stories after Doyle? Maybe trying to pick the best of those.
Well, the problem there, though, is that then you have to pay royalties. The Doyle stories are all public domain.
Then why do it?
Because it's worthwhile to do a good adaptation, just like Lord of the Rings, for example.
Well, I understand this, but you already said there was the Jeremy, what's his name?
Jeremy Brett.
Jeremy Brett, which I did remember growing up.
That was a BBC production, and I think it was it BBC or was it ITV? I forget. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, you're right. You don't need to, but it's never been in cinema.
I don't know. We'll see. It's HBO. As long as it's not a deconstruction, right?
Exactly.
I almost would argue that the Perry Mason series, I'm not that familiar with the old Perry Mason. I don't want to say it was a deconstruction of Perry Mason, but he's not the most admirable character when you start out watching the show. But It's interesting to see him become the lawyer we know as the show goes on. It's an interesting little series. In fact, Robert Downey Jr. was originally he was pegged to play the Perry Mason on the new show, but he was too busy with the Disney movie, so they got that wonderful actor who I'm so bad with names tonight, but he was in that Tom Hanks Mr. Rogers movie. He was also on The Americans. He's a really good actor too.
You really want me to watch this Americans, don't you?
I think you'd get a kick out of it. You don't have to watch it, but I think you'd get a kick out of it.
No, I have nothing against it. It does sound like something I would.
It takes place in the 80s, and it really is about. I'm telling you, I brought this up on a stream before, and people give me it, but I'm saying back in the 80s, you had that fear of the Soviet Union. You were a kid, and the show kind of pinged me like I was a kid again when I had that during the whole Cold War thing.
Sure.
And how of course now we might be getting back there. But
yeah, right.
All right. Oh, I wanted to give this a different title. Excuse me. We're going to do this real quick. Bruce Willis has award revoked due to illness.
Yeah.
The Razzies, a tongue-in-cheek award show. Did I totally blow that? Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
We get the spirit of it.
The Razzies, a tongue-in-cheek award show that hands out honors to the worst cinema of the year, has rescinded its prize for Bruce Willis after the actor's family revealed he is struggling with aphasia, a medical condition that affects his cognitive abilities. It's weird because the Red Letter Media did a whole thing on a lot of these made-for-streaming Bruce Willis movies and about how terrible they are. And they kept thinking someone's got to be feeding him his lines, and I think they're probably right now. After much thought and consideration, the Razzies have made the decision to rescind the Razzie Award for Bruce Willis due to his recently disclosed diagnosis, a statement from the Razzies. If someone's medical condition is a factor in their decision making and or their performance, we acknowledge that this is not appropriate to give them a Razzie. On Wednesday, the Willis family, including his former wife Demi Moore, said in a joint statement that the actor would be taking a break from acting due to his medical condition. This is a really challenging time for our family. We are so appreciative of your continued love, compassion, and support, the statement said in part. According to the Mayo Clinic, aphasia is a condition that robs you of the ability to communicate and can be caused by a stroke, head injury, brain tumor, or disease. The rest is
or blood clot. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I understand. The Razzies this year nominated Willis for 8 of his performances this year in a category named for him Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. The group ultimately decided his role in Cosmic Sin was the so-called winner. The category was never meant to be an ongoing part of the Razzies, so it will not be repeated, the Razzies statement added. Okay, well, I mean, they're trying to show some class here. And I want to get points. Remember Halle Berry?
Yes.
Halle Berry, when she got the Razzie, and she took it with good spirit, I thought. And
she did receive it in the spirit it's intended. What was her acceptance? Something like, I want to thank, my manager or whatever for getting me involved in this piece of shit or something like
that. Something like that. And, there's no crime in that. You're going to star in a bad movie. And,
Look, I would argue that's exactly how you got to deal with this kind of stuff. You gotta accept it. And I mean, I even give some props to Joel Schumacher, who's come out and apologized for his Batman movies. If I can forgive a lot if you say, you know what, I see where I went wrong there. If I had it to do over again, I'd have done it differently.
I'm telling you, for fixing the DC universe, you should one day maybe do Batman and Robin to see what went wrong.
I could. I absolutely could.
Oh,
I will say this. There are, as I've gone back and looked at these movies, there are elements about them that are still kind of gems. There are some things about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his depiction of Mr. Freeze that are really good. Yeah, the stupid one-liners are probably kind of unnecessary.
Arnold always has one-liners, but it doesn't work when you're the villain. At least not that.
But can you imagine if and they did go with the animated series story about, his wife and everything. Can you imagine if they'd have really embraced that and gone the dramatic route instead of the comical route? That would have been amazing. So
Yes.
I will go to bat for Batman and Robin for that alone. What the potential it definitely had.
Yes, definitely.
All right, everyone, chill. Yeah,
Chill. There was a YouTube video that had all the that had all the clips together of the Batman and Robin, and then it did that one sound effect that goes bump bump ba da da. Yeah, I can't do the effect
exactly.
properly, and it was just, and it showed everything wrong with the movie. And I think that after that, Joel Schumacher says he showed. I think you see Joel Schumacher's apology from the DVD, like.
But and another thing I'll say in Joel Schumacher's defense, he was doing what he was told to do, right? They wanted, and if anything, you should blame McDonald's. Okay, it was the marketing for the first two Batman movies with Tim Burton, where we had all this outrage. Oh, this is supposed to be for kids. It's too dark. Blah 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 blah. Okay, fine. So they decided to go completely the other way. And it's like, yeah, no, that wasn't the way you should have gone either. There was probably somewhere in the middle where you could have found a happy medium.
Can you be cold, Batman? Oh, no.
Do you bleed? Oh, sorry, wrong movie. Anyway.
Why have DC movies been so mishandled? It's not a new phenomenon. That's the problem. It's gone on before now.
We've kind of talked about this with whenever we talk about franchise properties. It's this idea of these auteurs who think who the hell they are, and I'm going to make this my own. And it's like, no, if you're going to make something your own, make your own damn thing. If you are coming in to do some other IP that was created by someone else, do your homework to do it right. Find out what it is. Look at what's gone before. Look, can you imagine if somebody came in to do Godfather 2 and completely changed the history of the characters and went against everything that was put forward in the previous movie? People would be like, what the fuck is this? There are narrative rules when you continue a story. And that's what you're doing when you do sequels. That's all that's happening with these franchise films. It's just that there have been so many movies, so many TV shows, so much history. There's a lot you got to pay attention to. If you're not willing to do that work, don't fucking do it. Go do something else. Go make Knives Out or some shit.
We're getting two more of those apparently.
Okay, great.
He was smart in lining up deals while he was making Last Jedi. Happy Easter to you two, Team Ghostplay. Happy Easter to everybody here. That's next Sunday. Are we streaming next Sunday?
It's up to you.
Did you want to stream? Do you care about streaming?
I don't think I mean, I'd leave it up to Netter, but I don't think we have any plans for next week.
All right. Well, if not, I'll make a video, but if not, we'll plan to be here. But like I said,
any plans for Easter next week?
If you got plans, we can skip it. It's fine.
No, we don't have any plans. Yeah, we could stream.
All right. Well, maybe we'll keep it light or something. We'll see. But okay. But all right. But anything else to add tonight?
I mean, I guess we could do a stream about Hollywood personalities who have not come back from the grave for Easter. No, that's
what? Anyway.
It's all about resurrection, right?
I don't know. I'll think of something. Like I said, well, if it does get canceled, I'll make a post about it. All right, but okay, all right. But y'all have a good night. What do we have going on this week? Actually,
So,
Tuesday.
Tuesday night. No, not Culture Fortress. What's it called?
We're doing an anime discussion. We don't have a name for it yet.
Okay,
but,
over on Mr. Mastic's channel.
And we will be talking about Mobile Suit Gundam episodes 1 through 21, and the great Japanese space opera from 1979. And I like how the year in it is 0079 of the Universal Century, because 79 they still kept. It's just a 79 of a different count.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Which doesn't give you any understanding of how far in the future it is.
And
it could be thousands of years in the future. It could just be
I got
79
the
years.
It's like 1,000 or 2,000 years in the future. That's the impression I got from the show.
Sure.
Because they were referring to the 1940s, World War II, as something from the Middle Ages. So I guess that's how far in the future it's supposed to be. But.
Seems about right. Yeah.
Okay.
So Wednesday, soundtracks with Birdman.
We're going to be doing a rewatch of Bullet with Steve McQueen, and soundtrack by Lalo Schifrin, provided I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And Friday, do you have anything going on?
I haven't decided what I'm doing yet, but somebody recommended a rewatch of Singing in the Rain, because apparently it's an anniversary. I'm not committed to that 100%, but it's a possibility.
Okay, cool. All right.
Saturday, rewatch over on Netter's Network of Avatar, the James Cameron sci-fi film.
Oh, cool.
Not the airbending one.
Not that one, no. The fans of that show hated that adaptation.
I heard, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard people were not happy.
And that'll bring us back around to Easter.
Okay, yeah, alrighty. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. I mean, we only got about as high as a dozen people, but it was pretty consistent. That's pretty nice. I'm glad you guys stuck with us as long as you did.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.